Hello, fellow Samurai of Rokugan. Welcome to our interactive talk show, Meeting the Keepers, about our favorite card game, Legend of the Five Rings. Our guests today are Dave Laderoute, Jack Murray, and James Matthew. We are really pleased to have them all here. And I'll be moderating for you guys. My name is Andre Rinn. Normally, my twin brother over at the Mimicry No Oni picture would be here, but he's to be excused. He's stuck in traffic and can sadly not make it for our show today. So, without further ado, let's introduce our guests. So, let's start with Dave. Dave, Rinn, who are you? Normally, my twin. What do you have to do with L5R? Why are you sitting here? And how did you get into the game?
Okay. Okay. So Dave Laderoute, I'm the brand lead or brand manager for Legends of the Five Rings for AEG, Alderac Entertainment Group. I'm from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. If you're probably not familiar with where that is. It's basically smack in the middle of the North American continent on the northwestern shore of Lake Superior. Okay. How did I get into the game? Well, in 1997. A friend of mine gave me an Imperial Crane starter because he was playing the game and he wanted me to play the game. So I gave it a try. Immediately hooked, and although I did not stick with the Crane, I actually found myself attracted more to the villains of the setting, the Shadowlands Horde, the Dark Path of Shadow, and later on the Scorpion and the Spider and so on. So that's really my window into the CCG back in the late 90s. And then the RPG I started, I think, in 2006 or thereabouts. So I do play both games, and that's me.
Yeah. So how does it come that you have become brand manager of Legend of the Five Rings?
Well, that's an interesting little tale, I guess. I originally I've been working for AEG as a freelance writer for the role-playing game for a number of years now. I've contributed to most of the 4th edition supplements and books. I guess it must be close to 2 years now, a year and a half, something like that now, that the position of editor for the Imperial Herald opened up. So I applied for the job and got it. And that brought me onto the L5R team. And then subsequently, when the senior management of the company, the CEO, decided that he wanted to change things around, he came to me and asked me if I'd be interested in being the brand lead for L5R. And after some thought, I decided that indeed I did. So I guess it was on March the 10th, early March of this year that I took over. So I've been in the position for about March, April, May, June, about 3 months now. So yeah, that's how I ended up as brand lead, coming from outside the company.
Okay. And is there any favorite moment you had with the game? Any anecdote on tournaments or while playing at home that you remember as one of your fondest memories of playing the game? Anything funny or memorable?
Oh boy, yeah, there's been lots. I've been to Gen Con a few times. I've met some fantastic people there. Had the opportunity to get my my butt kicked in the CCG, which is fine. I enjoy playing. It's not winning or losing. As long as I come away from the table feeling like I've played a game and given my opponent a challenge, I'm quite happy. I guess that let's see, a particular anecdote at Gen Con one year, I decided to try out live action role playing. So I took on the role of a Scorpion courtier, which was a lot of fun because I got to be all sneaky and schemy and wily the way that Scorpion courtiers are. And the people that I played with were just as immersed in their characters. There was a fellow who was playing a Togashi monk, and he was great because he could speak for 5 minutes at a time and say absolutely nothing. It was amazing. Just the way he did it beautifully too. He quoted from the Tao of Shinsei. He spoke in riddles. It was amazing. I don't know if he actually accomplished anything, but I loved it. It was absolutely fantastic the way this fellow was playing this Togashi monk, and he was wearing basically a full upper body sleeve of complex tattoos, which made it just amazing. So yeah. That one immediately comes to mind. I will never forget that.
Okay, nice. So let's continue with our guests. Jack, who are you? Why are you here?
So I'm a tournament player, I guess, of moderate to mediocre success.
Ah.
I won a Kotei last year, which was my first win after many washouts. I've been playing since about 2003. I think was the Fall of Odyssey expansion was when I joined the game. I was knee high to a grasshopper, maybe 13 or 14 years old, and a bunch of us got into the game together. There was a sales guy at our local gaming store who pushed the game very hard, and we all went for it pretty big style. We played through Gold Edition, Diamond Edition, wound down a bit during Lotus, as I think a lot of groups did. I came back towards the end of Celestial was when I rejoined the game. I spent some time pottering about as a scrub, and then I worked very hard, got better, and now I do okay.
You do okay. Okay, you do okay.
Not good enough is what I would always say. Never won the big one.
That's your only measure of success, if you have been world champion or not.
Yeah, you come first or you're a scrub. One of the two. In terms of like fond memories playing L5R, I'd have to say that certainly the strongest memory I have playing L5R is Barcelona in 2012.
Oh, that was amazing.
Which was my first, it was the moment where I came third in that tournament, and I lost to Johan, who went on to become the champion. Played in a series of games that lasted about 2.5 hours. It was just like our first game took about 90 minutes, with the full length of time for the round, and it was an absolutely brutal slog. And then we played a second game of similar length, and then I don't remember how it happened. Somehow we made it to a third game. It took ages, and I was absolutely shattered by the end of it. And I lost the third game to a really big blunder on my part, which I have been kicking myself about ever since. But I have very fond memories of being there in that seat in the hall in Barcelona, being surrounded by my friends and sort of living on the adrenaline of competition, which is something I really, really love. And when I came away from that tournament, it was the first time that I was able to sort of look at myself and say, I'm happy with how I did at this tournament. I'm happy with my performance here. And yeah, I think that would probably be my strongest moment, or certainly my favorite moment in L5R, as much as it was devastating at the time.
Okay, nice to hear. So, to the next one. James, why are you here? I just asked you the same questions. What have you done to L5R? James.
I'm accused of being a good player on occasion.
So many accusations flying around here.
Yeah. I don't know. 2 years ago, I won the only Kotei in North America with Scorpion. Last year, I won the only North American Kotei with Phoenix. I don't know. That's some credit. Everybody remembers everybody's favorite personality, Asawa Mizuhiko. That was actually supposed to be a rat personality of the tournament that I won. It was I felt it was kind of backhanded at least a little bit. It was the last time we had the Year of the Rat in the Chinese Zodiac, and it was a sealed deck tournament at Gen Con. You had to pick your clan before going in, and I think it said something about a couple of underlying problems of the game at the point when nobody really picked modern factions. They all picked Ratlings, Nagas, Ninjas, Toshuri's Army, Yoritomo's Alliance instead of Mantis, to name a personality to be the new Jade Magistrate. And I picked Rats, and along the lines of everything else, I think that was my favorite moment. First and second place was my favorite moment in L5R. I had somewhere to be. I had somewhere to meet up with later that evening, and the tournament had gone very, very long, and I was already really late. And I told my opponent, this is what I pulled. This was the sealed deck that I ended up with. I just laid it all out on the table, and I said, I know what you're playing because you played my best friend last round. He said, it's a Crane Honor deck that I got a slow start against, and that's why I'm out of the tournament. I said, I don't think you really have a very good chance at winning. I kind of want to win so that I can actually get a rat for the Year of the Rat, and you can have 90% of the price of it. And he said, no, I want to play it out. So as we go through the game, I keep making him the offer. 80%, 70%. we get he's about halfway through his dynasty deck and he's not past 20 honor, and I make him one final offer of 50% of all the prize support, and he says no, and I said, all right, now I'm not going to be nice anymore. I burned his entire dynasty deck and left him at 32 honor, and then I attacked his last province, and I made him have to pass 17 times in battle while I continued to take action. And
ouch.
it was kind of funny because he kept looking over at the judge, Don Eisel, and Don's like, you know, he made you offers. He was polite about it the entire time. I don't know why you're looking at me. He's not breaking any rules. So, you know, I got whatever it was. The difference between first and second, I think, was like I got 70% of the product, and the name and the glass trophy that I've got sitting over on the mantle or whatever it is. The apartment has a fireplace, so it's just right above it. But yeah, I think that was probably one of my favorite moments there. And then, you know, it didn't work out the rest of the evening, so that's the heartbreak right there. But I did get a carded personality there, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, nice to hear. So your fondest memory of LFR is you being mean in the end.
No, me trying to be nice.
But but not appreciated.
Was he mean or was he being just? You know, was it mean or was it fair? I feel like there was an element of justice there. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, at the same time, I was trying not to be too rude about it the entire way through until he said no the last time. And, you know, the last offer that I made him, I just took his army, I just took his second province. Okay. He has 2 people in play, and I've got 40 force on the table. And he's at 20-something honor. And he's like, no, I got this. And I'm like,
okay.
All right.
Got to admire his confidence.
Yeah, never give up, never surrender.
Well, at the point where, and I knew exactly what he had in hand because he had 2 cards left. He had something that was a pitch effect that like draw a card effectively. I think it was discretionary valor or something like that, and then like a Sparrow Clan aid, and then an attachment that like a 2-for-2 weapon or something like that. And okay. So, I mean, at the same time, yeah, don't give up, but be reasonable about it. If somebody says that he's got somewhere else that he's trying to be, and you're not, it's not a close game. So yeah, I guess that was it. But however, and then I got into the game somewhere between Fire and Shadow and Ambition's Debt, and I think the card that actually got me into the game was a Tok-Tuk Sensei that was in what was it? Honorbound, which was the set.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So Tok-Tuk Sensei was really what got me into the game, and the first deck that I ever played, I played with the Crab Onis and lots of rats, and really bad beginning player deck with 4 regions in it, 2 Rattling Villages and 2 Blackfinger Rivers, just so that you could have Shadowlands rats to feed the biggest of the big Crab Oni. Just make your guys gigantic.
Yeah, nice. So these are our guests that we have to stick with tonight, and
stuck with us.
And hell of a guest they are. So we go back to our first guest we talked about because he mentioned that he's the brand manager of L5R, and when I hear that, I ask myself, what is a brand manager? What are you doing?
Okay. All right. So it kind of implicit in the title. The brand manager or brand lead for L5R is responsible for the L5R brand. So that includes the CCG. It includes the role-playing game as well. And it would include any other products that were to come along under the guise of L5R. So that's kind of the superficial description of what the brand lead brand manager does. You can actually break it down into 2 kind of broad categories of work. The first one is sort of the management side of it. Okay, so this is the very detail-oriented internal process that has to be done in order to cause cards to appear on the shelves of a store or to be available for purchase on the internet. And it's a process I'm still in the process of wrapping my own mind around, because the sequence of events that has to happen to take the ideas for an expansion or a base set for the CCG and put it through the whole sequence of design, playtesting, development, getting things, layout, getting the art in place, purchased, and that's appropriate to the cards, getting the cards named, flavor text, and so on, so that you end up with print-ready versions of the card that can be sent to the printer. In China, then the cards have to be printed, and they have to be cut and collated and packaged, and then they have to be shipped back to North America, and then from there they need to go into distribution and so on. It's actually it's a process that involves a lot of people. We have a lot of really good people inside AEG who work both inside the L5R brand and also more generally for the company that make this stuff happen. As I said, it's very detail oriented. A lot of things have to be done in the right sequence. Task A has to be done before task B can be done, which has to be done before task C can be done, and so on. So there's a lot of interdependency and stuff like that. The first set that I'm actually taking from cradle to grave, as it were, as the project manager, will be the first expansion in Onyx Edition. The reason for that is because the remaining expansions for this year plus the Onyx base set are all well in process, and it simply doesn't make any sense for me to take over from the person who's the project manager for them right now. So that, and then the RPG side is a little more straightforward because that one is more about getting the people who write the stuff to write it, get it submitted, get it edited, and get it compiled and then laid out again and so on, so that it can go off to production. It's not. There's still a fair bit of work that goes on in the background there. The RPG playtest process has to go on and so on, but it's not quite as extensive or voluminous as it is for the CCG. And then there's, on top of that, all the other stuff that needs to go on inside the company, all the business processes inside the company. Because we are a distributed company, which means that, for example, I'm in Northern Ontario in Canada. Brian Reese, the lead designer, is in Northern California. We have other people in Southern California. We have people in John Akey's in Oklahoma, Dan Deneen's in New York, Nicolas Bonjou's in France, and so on. There's a lot of collaboration that has to go on, not necessarily in real time. So we're working to develop a lot of tools and make sure we're using these tools properly to keep ourselves all kind of working collaboratively. Our efforts are unified. We're not working at cross purposes and so on. So there's a lot of that. So that's kind of the first part of the job, the actual business side of the job involved in creating and producing products. The other main component of the job is more external. It's kind of representing the brand and interacting with and communicating with the customers who are the players and the fans and so on. That's a little softer. Those are somewhat softer skills, although because of the way that we've chosen to evolve the story, which I think we're going to be talking about more detail later on. Yes. There is a lot more interaction and a lot more specific interaction going on with the customers, the fans, and the players of the game. Where we are embarking on a rather bold, I think, and potentially really fantastic, really awesome, but also risky course of making the game much more interactive in terms of its story. So that's really a lot of that side of the job for me. Working with the clan path choices, for example, has been a huge chunk of my job over the past few weeks, a couple of months actually. So that's the other part of the job. So there's sort of the internal business process, design, development, production, sales, and marketing component, and then there's the more externally focused player customer interaction, story, development, and interaction with the players side of the job. So that I think that's probably a pretty good overview. Questions if anyone's got them?
The one thing that comes to my mind is that the brand manager, the position itself is not so old in AEG. When I remember it, the first brand manager was just introduced at the last World Championship, which was in fall last year. So it's not even a year old. Do do you know what triggered the company to introduce such a manager in the first place?
Oh no, the brand manager position has been around longer than that.
Really?
It's been around for some time.
Never mind.
There's been a succession of brand managers. Although it is an interesting question because I guess it does kind of maybe speak to the profile of the brand manager and the extent to which the brand manager job or the brand lead job has evolved from being focused more on that first part of the job, which is the internal process, design, development, production, that sort of thing, and not so much on the second part of the job.
Yeah.
So maybe that's more of an answer to the question. It's not that the position is new; it's that the position has, over the course of the past year and a bit, has changed somewhat.
Yeah, because I just remember, I think Rob was introduced to the players in the last World Championship, and to me it sounded, maybe I just interpreted that wrong, but that he is taking over new business fields, and so I thought he was just introduced. The position itself was just introduced. But it seems like I'm mistaken on this point.
So never mind. That's fine. That's fine. Like I say, it speaks perhaps to the profile of the job.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Nice. Any question of you guys? Then we'll go on. Yeah, Chad?
I had a pretty straightforward and simple one. You were talking about how and I anticipated as much, that the RPG takes up a lot less of or is a much less arduous process developing than the CCG. That there aren't maybe as many product owners involved, and the playtest is maybe, as you said, less voluminous, but as less of a priority. It's not the most important thing. It's just getting quality content first, good writing, good art. It's more valuable. So what my actual question is to do with the actual proportion of your time and effort, and how they're divided between the two tasks. So if you're talking about a rough percentage split between how much of your time and effort is given to the CCG versus the RPG, and that's my question.
Right now, it's probably, oh boy, it's probably something like 75-25 in favor of the CCG, maybe even a little more. Part of that is because the RPG is in good hands. Rob Hobart, the fellow who is the sort of lead designer for the RPG, knows his stuff.
Fourth edition is super.
Yeah, and part of it is because the CCG has so many more moving parts. There's the mechanics and the playtest you need to do for them for the RPG there's less of it. There's fewer potential interactions. There's I don't want to call it simpler, but it is. I think it's more straightforward.
It's subject to less abuse from the player base, right? I mean, CCG players, they get the cards, and their goal when they get them is to destroy the designer's efforts. Like, okay, these guys have tried to make a balanced game, but if I try to play a balanced deck, I won't do well. So I'm going to try and find the little cracks and gaps and break this. Whereas with the RPG, it's a collaborative thing. People are working together. So when they get a mechanic that maybe doesn't work so well, rather than trying to ruthlessly exploit it, they're more likely to just house rule it, or sort of, even sort of just politely ignore it. So you're like, do you find, because you're interacting with both audiences, and I know that L5R RPG players are very, very passionate as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are the CCG players more difficult to deal with? I guess are they CCG? They are, clearly, but maybe can you share some insight regarding?
I don't want to call any of my customers difficult to deal with. I mean, okay, yeah, yeah, something that's become clear to me is, and I hadn't really appreciated it until I was in this position. There are two different customer groups there, and there is overlap between them. I mean, there are people like me that play both games, so I don't want to absolutely categorize people as either an RPG player or a CCG player. But definitely the trend in the two communities is somewhat different. The CCG players, and that's why I don't want to say they're more difficult or something. They're just different. The CCG players they're playing a different game. They're playing a game that is very very much about in the play of the game, about its mechanics and about the cards. It's very competitive. I mean that's probably the biggest thing that distinguishes the two. The RPG doesn't tend to be a competitive game. When we ran Winter Court 4 earlier this year, we did try to make it competitive to the extent that we could, because competition breeds conflict. Conflict is always where the best story comes from, right? But definitely the CCG at its heart and soul is a competitive experience. So the players are of the CCG, they can be more demanding because they expect the certain things out of the game. The RPG players, you're right. The RPG players are a little more amenable, in my experience, anyways, to house ruling things, or to being collaborative and saying, okay, we're not gonna play just off the top of my head. We find Shugenja in the RPG are too powerful. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that I'm just imagine that there's a group that says Shugenja are too powerful. We want to focus more on courtly sort of political, that kind of thing. So they kind of collaboratively decide that they're going to focus on that and they're not going to play Shugenja, or they're not going to play combat heavy Bushi or something like that. In the CCG, players are out to win, right? I mean, except for those occasions where you do play fluffy decks that are just for fun or whatever. Generally, you're out to win. So it's a different mindset. So yeah, I don't think they're. I wouldn't say that either is more difficult than the other. They're just different.
Okay. So I asked you two, Jack and James, to imagine that you were brand manager of the L5R brand, and I asked you to tell us what the first thing would be that you would actually do when you were brand manager. Did you make up?
While I take notes.
Okay, yeah. Did you think of anything, you two guys?
So I tried to think about it. Oh, sorry, you go first.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Okay,
so yeah, I tried to think about that in a bit. Dave had gone through the detail of what he does for a living prior to that. It was difficult, but a sort of a question I ran into for myself while I was trying to think about that was to do. So the L5R brand is one that I would identify as being a real product of 90s culture. And L5R blossoming and the success that it had in its early years, I feel it was very much a part of a zeitgeist, at a time where Hyder was cool and everyone thought katanas were this new exciting thing. There was an exoticness to Japanese culture, and that has become more diffuse now. Like I think of things like films like, say, Ghost in the Shell or Akira were just sort of having their splash in the English-speaking world at that time too. So there was sort of a moment that Japanese culture had where it was this new, exciting and exotic thing, and L5R sort of caught that, and then it also caught the bubble of CCGs. It was born 0.5 seconds after Magic, and it's been around all that time as well. But I wonder, it seemed like it would be something of a struggle to me to maintain relevance after 20 years of L5R, when the sort of the cultural context which gave it birth is very much no longer around. Again, it was a moment, a specific time and place, and L5R enjoyed this big boom as a result of it. But samurai aren't exciting and cool anymore. Japanese culture has become sort of not internalized. The bits of it that people liked have been assimilated and appropriated, and it doesn't have the same exotic kind of punch that it used to have. So I guess, yeah, like, is that something that you've experienced, or do you find that L5R is a little out of time these days, or is that are actively try to embrace, like you're going targeting a more show?
Okay, yeah, it's a really interesting observation. I have to confess that I hadn't thought of it in quite so much in those terms, but when you put it that way, I think there's probably some truth to that. If you think about the extent to which communications technology has evolved from, say, 1995 to today, it's probably not just L5R that's experiencing that. For example, not that long ago, The Lord of the Rings was a set of books that you read, and big books with lots of words in them, and a really complex, nuanced, detailed story. Now, The Lord of the Rings to many people, is a set of movies. And they have the Lord of the Rings is no longer this sort of thing that sits off in the fringe culture. And I remember when I started reading it back in the 70s, the Lord of the Rings was kind of a thing that some people did, and many more people had heard of it, but they thought of it as something weird and kind of counterculture almost. Now it's absolutely mainstream. When we see the success of things like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead and so on, I think what we're seeing is a lot of those things that were at one time. I don't really want to call them fringe, but they certainly weren't mainstream. Thanks to niche. Yeah, is a good way. Thanks to the somewhat, I guess you could almost say, the homogenation of global culture. Thanks to the internet. Thanks to the ability to travel very quickly and inexpensively around the globe. A lot of things are facing that. I think that that goes back to what we've done with the story for L5R. The real hook for L5R, aside from the fact there's still a degree of being exotic to it. I mean, samurai are still fascinating. There are still TV shows, and MythBusters will test things related to samurai, like how good is a katana at actually cutting through stuff and all this kind of stuff. So there's still some fascination there, but it's part of the reason that I think we've really wanted to go to making the story interactive with the players to the extent that we have, and really want to promote conflict, because by itself, the setting, although as good as it is, probably isn't enough to hook people anymore, or at least not hook them to the extent we'd like it to. So that's why we want to make the hallmark of the game, I think, more about conflict and interaction. That's probably the way to take the game forward, I think, from here, rather than simply leaning on, as you've kind of pointed out, leaning on this particular cultural, sort of paradigm.
Okay.
And then I don't know, if I had a sort of say in it, I think it would be maybe a little bit more of, and I mean, most recently, the thing that you guys have done more than I've really seen in the past is you've been clear in communicating with the community a lot more. I mean, just if you flip open the page for the L5R main page, there's just so much more communication about what's going on right now than there used to be. That would be something that I would, maintain. I think you're winning a lot of points back with a lot of people who were unaware of maybe internal difficulties like the dock strike with that delayed 20 festivals.
Yeah.
I mean, in previous delays, you've had issues before, and people just throw their drama temper tantrums. But in comparison, this time around, when you say, "Hey, look, we're not the only company being affected by this. Here's some outside sources going on about it." That does a lot to help your case when you're saying these are the reasons that something has happened this way. And the other thing that I would do, and I know this is a terrible, horrible thing ever to bring up in an L5R community, do one thing that Magic does. Keep your playtest and your design team divorced from the community. Like, your community in Magic doesn't know who the playtesters are, and they know who the head designer is, but the head designer never addresses, or the known designers never really address the public. They're just, hey, I'm a guy. I show up to tournaments every once in a while. I'll show you the cool stuff that I'm playing around with as far as a deck that's mine, that's legal currently, and that's all they'll do. There's like a sort of a big wall between the two, where if there's something that needs to be addressed, it's handled at the brand manager level or like the community manager level instead of then by design. Because if there's that separation there, I think it helps you maintain a little bit more professionality. It helps you maintain sort of a this is design, but these are not same people that are showing up to everything, and maybe, I don't know, there are certain people who don't like other people in these realms. A little fence between the two, I think it helped mend things a little bit, but that would be the only real thing that I would say, other than some of the recent changes you've done to maintain. It would be helpful, I think.
Okay. Yeah, the communication thing is there's a lot of reasons that it's good to communicate with your your customers. I mean, it's and I can understand why sometimes companies are don't want to communicate too much with their customers, because there's the old adage that the more you say, the more you're likely to provoke questions and responses and that kind of thing. But I think we're at a point in the game where, particularly if we're going to be asking you guys to be so engaged in the telling of the story, the basically the writing of the story of the game, then we need to be open and upfront with you guys about the story and about the game and so on. In order to promote that communication back, it's got to be kind of a two-way street, right? Yeah, well, okay. And when it comes to the separation of design from the community and so on, that's a really interesting point. It's culture. I think the culture is developed where we don't have that necessarily in L5R, but it doesn't mean that we can't. That's like I said, I kind of joked saying I was going to take some notes, but I actually am kind of taking some notes. So I mean, it's something I'll talk about with the brand team and see what they think. There's been a lot of discussion. I've been involved when I was a player, and I occasionally ranted on the forums about particular cards and stuff like that too. There's definitely a lot of everybody's got their ideas about how the game should be designed and how it should work, and a lot of them are good ideas. Not all of them are. So I guess that I understand why there's a good reason to keep design maybe apart from that. So. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to come out and say yes, we will do that today, because that's wouldn't be appropriate. But I will take that back and talk to the brand team about it and see what they think. It's a good point.
Finally, I also thought about that question, and there was one specific topic which came up a lot in Germany specifically, because we had some issues with that. Was one thing that you, Dave, also talked about, that one part of your job is to make clear that the communication between the different teams is going along smooth. Mm-hmm. And this is the rules of the game and how they interact with design changes. I will talk about that on a specific case that was done. For example, we all know that from the change to Emperor to Ivory, the rules of the game and the design of the game went into a new stage. A lot was done, and it was absolutely clear that that would not go completely smooth, because that's impossible when you do so many changes. And that's okay. So one thing that caused a lot of discomfort, especially in the German community, was the totally necessary and right change to change the interrupt rule. And switch around the interrupt window after targeting of the cards, which of course was a good change. Mm-hmm. Now comes my query with that. So let's say you are in the design team and you say, okay, to make the game a better game, we have to change the design of the game and change the interrupt window around. For me, the right thing to do then afterwards would be to go to the rules team and say, hey, we're making this change. Are there any cards? Are there any mechanics that will have implications with them? Because I was a little intrigued how it could be that the design team composed on the main page, we are going to do this major design change, and not in the same post, we know that this will have impact, here's a list of cards that have to change right now. Because when this call was done, that the interrupt window was going to change, there were many cards in the environment that were not playable anymore, mm-hmm. Or that had completely different effects, like for example, Traditionalist. Traditionalist mm-hmm. changed from an redirect of a favor action to a complete negation of favor actions.
Right. Final Sacrifice too.
Yeah, Final Sacrifice. I don't even know if this card worked at all. Stuff like that. And this was impacting tournaments, and this was also impacting especially a guy who decided to judge for our Kotei, who said, okay, I cannot do this anymore, there's too much going on here, I quit. So this had some direct impact. And now the problem has been resolved, but in the future, when design change are done, when there is something like this, that there has to be time taken into looking at how this implicates the rules, because rules are, in some way, the rules are the law of L5R. And like in the real life law of nations, it doesn't matter how they are meant to be, It's just the plain fact of how they are written. You cannot say everyone knows how this card should works, so everyone should play it like this. But on a competitive tournament environment, the only thing that counts is the written word in the law. And like in the real law, there are some, shady stuff you can pull off, in which most people would say is not nice to do. But again, the law is the law, the rules are the rules, this has to be addressed. And this was just one thing, that came to my mind. But you already touched it when you said that a big part of your job was communication between two teams. I just wanted to highlight that part again.
Yeah, it's something I should probably emphasize when I say that there's design and playtest and development and production and layout and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that. I don't do that stuff. It's my job to make sure it gets done. And we have people, really good people, who work on this stuff. And and I just want to emphasize I'm not offering an excuse here. This is not an excuse. This is just I guess at best it's explanation. It's a process that works really well most of the time. But there are, because again, the company is distributed all over the world, and there's a lot of moving parts here, like I say, especially when you've got, like if you think about what's coming up, we've got Thunderous Acclaim is about to release. The next set is, off, if I'm correct here, is off being printed. The set after that is about to be sent off to be printed. The Onyx base set is in design and so on. So not only are there many moving parts for each set, but there's multiple sets, in various stages of production at any one time. So it is complicated, and things do get missed. And that's a good example of where we didn't properly close the loop. You're right. Like if we're going to change something as fundamental as the way that interrupt timing works, then that's probably going to affect some cards. And as it turns out, it did. And then we had to issue technical errata and so on. So, yeah, keeping the teams talking. And I mentioned those tools that we've got to keep people working collaboratively is really, really important. And we're definitely getting better at it. We're able to we do a lot of meetings by Skype, and we have a lot of repositories of information that we make sure that right down to things like our weekly task lists. We all have a weekly task list, and I do mine, and then the guys who work for me do theirs, and they look at mine, and they see if there's anything that propagates from mine to theirs, and so on. So there's a lot of that stuff going on in behind the scenes, and we'll just, I guess all I can say is that we will still occasionally leave gaps and make mistakes and so on, but hopefully those will diminish over time as we get better and better at this.
Okay. Yes. Okay, any more comments on that, or we'll jump to the next topic? Okay, so next topic is a big one. It's the upcoming story of Onyx Edition. And just to start things off, I've been amazed not only about the content, but also about the visuals. You updated the LFFR page, which really looks beautiful. Vast improvement. You did a nice job of presenting the clan choices. I enjoyed that too. I enjoyed the read. I enjoyed how you opened the whole thing up with the Spider-Man that was first seen. Some people were like, oh, but now I cannot access the forum. But okay, for a day. And it's all for the dramatics. And this is I have to admit, I myself, while I'm clan loyal, I've always been more on the tournament competitive mechanical side of things. That was really what pulled me into the game, what intrigued me was just the numbers, not the pictures, not the fluff, but the mechanics. But this is the first time that I'm really, really pulled in by that. And I think this is, I'm not such an old guy of LFFR as you are. I just started in the end of Samurai Edition. But still, this is amazing.
Thanks.
And I'm really happy and fascinated about, and also the boldness, the willingness to take chances, the real risk of failure, implications, not everyone will be happy you broke with that. And this is, I say that as Mantis loyalist, it's just amazing. Just to kick things off, my thoughts, really well done.
Well, thank you. I have to admit that it is a little nerve-wracking. Even for the folks on the story team, for example, we have some awesome people on the story team. From their perspective, they're being asked to do what they've done is they have written the story, and they've done an excellent job with it, and they've kind of used the story to push the game along, and the game pushes the story along, and that's great, and it has worked well, but we're kind of at a point where, and I actually posted, I think, an article on the L5R.com website to the effect that when it comes right down to it, as a game product, L5R sits on a shelf beside things like Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And there's a few others like Dragon Ball Z and so on. My wife and I actually own a game store here in Thunder Bay, so we know the whole gaming scene pretty well. And compared to things like Magic, L5R is really coming from behind. I mean, Magic just it has the backing of Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, which is the largest toy and game manufacturer in the world, or at least one of them. Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon are both based on properties that are extremely popular and have cartoons and video games and stuff like that. So how does a game like L5R compete in that environment? And really what it comes down to, the competitive advantage for L5R is its story and the extent to which the players can tell the story of the game. So with that in mind, we decided that what we would do is we would take the story and we would leverage it as much as we can to engage the players and to give players and of the CCG and the RPG a sense of ownership over what was coming. So that's where we are, and I really appreciate the fact that you find it so compelling. It is a lot of work, and it is a certain amount of risk we're opening ourselves up to by saying to the players, here, you guys tell us the story, because we want to make it interactive, but we don't want to give, we can't just give a blank check, because then we end up with things that are weird and silly and don't fit the settings. So we have to have some
9 empires.
Yeah, we have to have some control there and so on. So it's a balancing act between how much we keep the story under control versus how much we hand it over to the players, and we're new to it too. We're new to this as well. So it's exciting. It's exciting, but it is a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. So let's chat with Jack. Jack, what do you think about the whole thing? What's your opinion?
I think there's a definite move back towards. I feel like there's maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like there's a deliberate attempt to capture a certain nostalgic feeling about the story from the early days of L5R. I certainly got that impression from John Zinser in Sheffield when he was, and when you think about like people talking about the story of L5R, all the bits that people love to remember are from the earliest days. Everyone likes to talk about the Day of Thunder. Everyone loves to talk about Matsuko. Everyone loves to talk about like for me, my favorite L5R character is Daidoji Uji. And he hasn't been around for a long time either. But I feel like there is a definite move. I won't say a step backwards, because I don't believe it is. I think that definitely the story content you're coming out with at the moment is the most for a long time. In Celestial Edition, I'll say that I have paid no attention to the story content since returning, except with that story featuring the Rakshasa bad guy from one of the European championships came up, and we were all having a good laugh sitting around quoting, yes, you have the right mix of cunning, ambition, and cunning, which was a direct quote from that story, which we all found pretty amusing. But I haven't paid an awful lot of attention to the story content up until now. But that being said, I mean, I was at a time deeply invested in the story of Rokugan, and in particular, I've spent 10 years playing and writing RPGs for L5R. So I'm not, although I am primarily a tournament player, I am not in any way opposed to the story element to it. I do, though. So back to the phrase, it was storing CCG. That was printed on the box, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And you're still saying that this is your big, unique selling point. Now, I met the head of Magic's narrative development team at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco last year, and this is something that they've put a lot more effort into in the last, say, 2-3 years. It's something they're paying a lot more attention to, and even through the way they're designing their event, it's it's an aspect that they've really improved on. So I wonder, is it really the same competitive edge that it was 20 years ago? But yeah, I'm not certain really that it is, and like especially as well. Excuse me. You're not just competition of other card games. You're facing from games, and that's in videos which are compared to what were and look what they are now. Your interactive storytelling, and I'm not enough of a unique sell point to entire success on.
Okay.
I myself of putting all my eggs in that basket. Obviously, it's you have to find what you can. You have to find the thing that can elevate your product above the others. And again, I had L5R. I want L5R to succeed and thrive for 20 more years or 30 more years. I want to be able to play this game forever. But I wonder, is interactive the unique selling point, still the unique selling point today that it was 20 years ago?
Well, just to be clear on one thing, although it may sound obvious to say it, I think it's worth saying. Our focus on the interactive story does not preclude making the best possible game products we can. So I mean that is going to continue. These things are all interdependent. If we have a fantastic story but crappy products to go with it, then that's not going to help, right? So we're really aware of the fact that we need to make sure that the game is the best that we can possibly make it. Now, having said that, if we go back 20 years to when the game was first conceived, I think that was one of the sort of points of the time that you alluded earlier to the fact that maybe it was the culture, the zeitgeist, or the paradigm at the time. Looks like we might have lost Jack there.
Jack had some technical issues.
Sorry about that.
I think there was some distortion.
I live in Ireland. We don't really have internet.
Yeah. Okay. So that was probably new and interesting, and I mean CCGs were new and interesting things at the time. I remember when Magic first came out, and my sons were very young. I bought these things called Magic cards because they look kind of cool, and we played this game. And I dread to think how valuable some of those cards may have been, or maybe today, but ended up in bicycle spokes and things like that. So I don't even want to think about that. But it was all very new at the time. So now 20 years later, to what extent is that still new? Well, one of the things that L5R has that Magic does not is it has the clans, and there is a remarkable degree of loyalty on the part of players to the clans. So that gives us a lever for storytelling right there. That and all due respect to Magic, I think they do a pretty good job. Well, they do a really good job, obviously evidenced by how well their product sells. And I think they're doing a pretty good job with their story too. Not that I'm deeply immersed in it, but I am aware of it, again, because we own a game store. So I think that we have to move that lever as much as we can for L5R. We have to take advantage of the clan loyalty. We have to take advantage of the effect to which people are identify with the specific personalities in the game, the characters in the story, and so on. So I guess my answer to your question is, I personally think it's a lever that we're going to be able to use. There a little bit of that answer involves a little bit. I hope it's going to do it for us. But with the analysis that we've done, I think it's probably the best way, combined with making really good game products, to keep the game alive for another 20 years.
Okay. So, James, what is your impression of the changes, the storyline changes for Onyx Edition?
I like it. I think there's a concern, at least among some of the other people, that I've been talking more about the story recently than really any time that I can recall in the last 5 or 6 years. The fact that it's going up to a big is kind of a big thing. But a lot of the different people that I talk with about this, they are CCG players, and there are a lot of them who don't like the direction that their clan's going with the story pick. And it seems to be driven a lot by the RPG players.
Yes.
A lot of the RPG players are, no, this is the honor thing, this is what I have to do, I have to do this thing that is everything that we've done to death in the story. There's no advancement, there's nothing new, there's nothing nuanced, everything's black and white, everything is go that way, if you go any way but that way, you're going...
You're not a crab player, you're not a crane player, you're not...
Yeah. And then there's, I mean, I think, and this is maybe a little bit over dramatic about it, but I think trying to just do the same thing over and over and over again is what would kill L5R.
Right.
And I think too many of the choices that a lot of the more RPG-focused players are focused on are leaning in a direction that is, it must be the pure most interpretation of author version of the path. If we do anything else, we're screwed. So let's just lock into what we've been doing for the last 10 years. And
okay.
It seems very, very, very bad. One suggestion that was posed by somebody.
Get off, James. Get off fence. Get off. Like, form a strong opinion. Stop sitting on the fence.
Okay. Well, this is a good. I mean, the one that I find in particular is the Phoenix, right? There's never been pure blood magic in the history of the game since the dawn of the Empire.
Oh, James, do you want to do that now already?
Yeah.
Oh well, I don't know. We could segue this into the next section.
Good. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll go for the advertisement of your favorite clan choice in the next section. I would say what we will do now is we skim really quickly over all the choices given for different clans. Just discuss a little about that, and then we go into our next section. Spoiler alert: we'll all be doing heavy biased advertisement to our favorite clan choice and try to convince you all to vote our way.
Can I just I just would like to briefly respond though, because James raised a point that I find really interesting, and I have to confess that it hadn't. I guess I had not anticipated the extent to which there would be this this perceived or apparent division between CCG players and RPG players. Mindful of the fact that it's hard to define what constitutes, well, no, maybe it isn't. People who play the CCG exclusively are obviously CCG players and vice versa. Though there is a community of players who play both. Just two quick points to that. One is that we are going to do everything we can to find conflict in the story as you guys, the players, develop it. So, for example, and I think I posted this on Facebook, and I actually put this into an article that I posted on l5r.com. It's not a case of a simple majority. So, for example, we've got a clan, and they have, let's say, 3 path choices, A, B, and C. Path choice A gets 51% of the vote. Path choice B gets something less, and so on. So 51%, therefore path choice A is the one that we go with. We're going to be looking at how the votes break down. So, for example, if it's 51% for path choice A and 49% for path choice B, that to us looks like a clan that is badly divided. Like there's a real internal division in the clan, and it's thinking, the direction its leadership is going, as to how they're going to proceed. So that gives us an opportunity to explore some conflict within the clan. The other point that I will make is that one of the truisms here is that this is a bit of a concern that's grown out of the fact that we're using the Imperial Assembly as a vote for this first the initial path choices. That's not going to be the case every time by any means. It was the most expedient way for us to do it in a process that's still new to us and the community. It has this knock-on effect of perhaps fractionating the votes within the communities somewhat. For future path choices, we are going to be drawing on a lot more types of interaction. So CCG tournament results and global storyline tournament results, and some other types of votes, voting with Koku. There's all kinds of things that we can come up with.
The voting with Koku was really brought up seriously yesterday in the discussion that I had when I was out with friends. We went out and had dinner after our tournament, and we're for the majority CCG players and RPG players. The RPG group that I'm playing with right now, they're doing sort of the Rise of the Spider situation storyline thing, and I'm playing the idiot Hiruma, who's just been sent along as the the spy for the Kolot. Well, not a Hiruma, Yasuki, who was trained by the Hiruma because he has no talent in court. Yeah. And so he's been sent along to sort of monitor these guys with the idea that the Kolot know what's going on, or they have an idea. And one of the other guys that was there in the group is Martino, who's done some work with you guys for the RPG, as far as what I understand. Mm-hmm. And then pretty much everybody who was at that tournament is an RPG/CCG player. Right. And we're all sort of on the side that the CCG maybe is your moneymaker, and you are alienating some players by letting the RPG players have as much of a say. I know that sounds sort of like the issue that we've got in American politics right now, that every one vote should count. But at the same time, if you don't have the largest percentage of your income maybe represented at that level, it kind of does some damage to your brand.
No, fully aware of that. Fully aware of that. And yeah.
Yeah, the Koku thing was really that seemed, at least amongst everybody there, to be a consensus, because I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to wager this on the cards that you're going to need in the future from your Koku orders, or are you going to wager it now to try to do that? And then you even have the option to buy Koku directly from AEG. So it's not a completely unfair advantage that CCG players would have, but the amount of investment that a CCG player has in the game is maybe better represented that way. And I mean, it sounds like at least there's consideration on this on your part. But,
there is. Okay. I think that, like, as I said, we're relatively new to the process ourselves, and at this point, we're too far down the road, and we've made commitments that I don't think we want to go back now and say, we're going to vote by Koku instead of, I don't think we're going to do that at this point for these first path choices. But it's definitely something that's being really elevated on my radar. John Akey has given me a lot of material that's come in to him, and I've received a lot of material that's come in about this, a lot of debate and discussion back and forth. So, like I say, we're going to be looking at the way the votes break down really closely to see how the proportions work out, and we'll go from there. We'll see how the results go. In the future, we are definitely, without putting too fine a point on it, yes, the CCG is the primary moneymaker for the brand, and we have to respect that. You're absolutely right. So we will, going forward, definitely be keeping that really sort of at the top of the list when we start designing our interactions. Not to say we don't want the RPG players to be involved. I absolutely don't want to say that. And there are some opportunities for the RPG players to get involved in things like the winter court type of online event. Should we do more of those, and maybe some kind of something like a quote unquote global storyline tournament for the RPG. How we do the scoring, I'm not sure yet, but we want the RPG players to be involved, but we have to be mindful of the fact that the CCG players, those who buy the CCG, whether they're RPG players as well or not, are putting most of the money into the brand.
Okay. So let's have a detailed look at the different clan choices. So I just go real quick to the LFR page and look in alphabetical order. Let's start with the crane. Or let's do Mantis last. So skip Mantis when we come to it and do it last, because it has an important impact on this clan. So let's look at the crane clan choices. So give you a little time to open it yourselves. So the crane. The different things that the crane could do. the first thing is to do what we must. This was what one must be set of weapons. This shows no. Okay, good. This was a struggle against the darkness. The left hand was the more standing by the emperor, and then the salvation was the immigration to the colonies and to bring all the culture goods and artworks to the colonies. Am I right?
That's generally right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
good.
just to specify something. These are the clan choices that we presented. These do not include the ones that were submitted to us by players over the past few weeks.
But we cannot discuss them now because
That's
we
right.
have no disclosure.
We're still working.
I know of a few that were discussed on the Mantis board because I'm somehow active there, but I have no other knowledge about it. Okay, so we have one more pure path that would be the struggle against the darkness. Then we have also a pure traditionalist path that would be standing by the emperor, and then we have something completely new. So what would you choose? Let's start with Jack. What do you think of those choices?
So my very first starter was a Crane starter. I am at heart a Crane player. Yeah. Don't hold it against me. A lot of the online discussion I've seen in the Crane like groups and stuff has been really, really conservative and very, very like, oh, let's not do anything, let's not take any risks. Let's, I think the one I saw that got a lot of discussion was let's go to all the clans and collect all their artwork and then take it to the colonies where it'll be safe. And lots of talk about pacifism and beauty and like that's just so boring to me. When I seem to be really at odds with a lot of Crane players because a lot of and this goes especially true. Like the more invested Crane people are in the story or the world, the more at odds with them I tend to be. Like what sold me on Crane was literally the card to do what we must. I was watching people play and I was reading the card and I was looking at the art and that was a concept, a thematic concept, which I found really appealing. And then the notion that Crane are the best swordsman was the other thing that I liked about them. So for me, the identity of the Crane has always been like my champions are Kurahito and Kuwanan and Hoturi. So I have always been perhaps a more militaristic bent than a lot of Crane players, and that comes across in my deck building as well, where I get a bunch of new Crane personalities. I go, these are all 0-force courtiers. I can't take provinces with these. What's the bloody point? So my instinct in that regard would very much to be to push to do what we must option hard, and now that is in a way sort of the traditionalist. Oh, we must stand strong against the darkness approach. It's in a way it is sort of conservative, but I feel that for the Crane clan in particular, it's enough. It's enough of a deviation from what they've been doing for the last 10 years that there is still something interesting in that for me. Focusing on the steel of the silken steel of the Crane would definitely be my strong preference for that one as a Crane, as a person who's been playing Crane for 13 years.
Okay, so definitely we should do what we must. But are you in general satisfied with the variety of choices you got for your clan?
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, I guess they cover the main bases. To go back into my own personal history as a tournament player, my very first ever tournament success was in the Irish Kotei. I want to say in 2004, maybe whatever year the Hidden City expansion had just landed. And for those of you who don't remember the Hidden City expansion or weren't there, it was a really, really, really good environment for 7 out of 8 clans. And if you were a Crane player, it fucking sucked. Because Crane had enjoyed a certain amount of success in the very early stages of Diamond, and when the new player design team took over and Hidden City was their first set, Crane got punished really badly for that. and so it was a sucky time to be a Crane player. So the deck I took to that Kotei was it was a Crane deck out of the Kikita Dueling Academy, but it was packed full of like Ashuras and Kyofu, the crab fear guy, the elemental master who you gave shadow. There was a lot of honor loss in that deck, and it was one of my favorite decks I ever built. Loads of fun to play, and I top 16 with it, which was the first time I ever did well in any tournaments. So ever since then, I have always been something of a, if I am a Crane player, I am a corrupt Crane player, and I will occasionally dip into the bad guy factions competitively. So I played Onis throughout Emperor Edition, and I played Spider at the Dublin Kotei this year, which I won.
Yeah, only one. The only Spider win. Oh,
which if we're talking about tournaments later, we'll get to, because that is mind-boggling to me. But
I know that feel pro.
So the fact that there is no proper like corrupt Crane option would be the only thing that I'd look at the Crane choices and say, but there's no, in Gold Edition there was this abandoned storyline where Kurihito was going to get a blood sword. Sword washed up on the beach, and it was the sword that the Crane daimyo had got and thrown himself off the cliff years before. And the Crane players at the time were like, no Crane champion would ever use a blood sword. No, we'd never be that dishonorable. Because again, there's that sort of conservative reaction that storyline players get. Whereas I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, yeah, blood sword, Kurihito, get a blood sword, go mess shit up. It's going to be great. And when the Crane players were like, no, we don't want that, I was really annoyed by that. And that was the sort of disconnect I have with other Crane players. So the fact that there is no Kurihito's blood sword option in the Crane story path choices would be the one thing that I'd be disappointed in as a Crane player, looking at my selection there.
So last minute hand in to Dave. Blood choice option. Blood sword option.
Okay. One of the things that we faced when we were developing these clan choices, the path choices, is, well, the easiest way is every clan gets 2 path choices. You go corrupt or you stay pure. And we that would have been easy, and it would have been kind of facile and interesting too. Yeah. So that's why we tried to come up with things that were more interesting. In the process of doing that, we may not have hammered right on a theme like that one, for example. That there was we're going to be all evil, dark, corrupt Crane.
Not evil, ambitious.
Ambitious, yeah, absolutely. That's right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, shouldn't use that word evil when it comes to Rokugan, particularly with regard to the clans.
Okay, so James, maybe a little less invested into Crane.
No. I actually think that that left-hand path should be sort of explored, where the Crane work sort of as the bad police officers for a dirty government. Is really that would be it'd be a new direction that Crane has never gone. And really, I think at the same time, you can keep some of the things the same way that they've always been, but what variation has Crane ever had, ever? They got rid of the Harriers, and a certain story team person bragged about that at numerous Koteis that she attended for making that call. But it sort of fit at the same way, where the Crane there's certain Crane who realize that they're not up to snuff with the rest of the Empire because they're investing whatever efforts they have in making sure that they're protecting art and culture. But you should have that. That should be the different option for Crane is they're still honorable because they're following the person who's sitting on the throne, and they're enacting his will, even if in enacting his will they're being kind of scumbags. That would be something different that we've never seen from Crane before, but Crane players would never go along with, so it's never going to happen.
Yeah, for my part, my answer for every clan would be this is as Brandley. My answer would be I would like to see the clans step outside their comfort zones and do
interesting.
Yeah, to take on challenges that are really going to test them. Because again, I'm a writer, I actually have a published novel. I have another one about to be published later this year. I have another one in the works, and conflict is what drives story. If you don't have conflict, you really don't have story. And it doesn't, by conflict, it doesn't have to be spattering blood and swinging swords and gouts of flame and stuff like that. It can be, there's many types of conflict, but there has to be a protagonist and an antagonist, and they have to have goals that do not are not mutually compatible, and so there has to be some strife that comes out of that. That's where really good story comes from. So as the brand lead, I'd really like to see the clans push themselves outside their comfort zones and do things that are exciting and fraught with peril. We are, I got to emphasize this, we are going to be looking at the results very closely and seeing how the votes split, because we are going to be looking for every opportunity to find conflict in the game as the interactive storytelling goes forward, and turn that into really awesome stuff for the clans and the players and for the story to explore. As taking my brand lead hat off and just as a player, yeah, I'd like to see the Crane adopt that left-hand path too, because there's a lot that's important about Rokugan that needs to be preserved and promoted, irrespective of who's on the throne. And we've already made it clear that Kanpeki, no matter what else he is not going to be a mustache-twirling villain who simply wants to blow stuff up. He is going to want to run a strong and efficient empire. So we're going to try to make it as morally ambiguous for the players as we possibly can. So it's not as clear as this guy is darkness, this guy is light, we follow the light.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as the Crane path, I think the left hand would be great, because that's your internal conflict where the Crane are we're preserving culture, but we're not being the best of people while doing it.
Absolutely.
But we're still doing something that has value.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah. And it still has something of the to do what we must, because if they don't do it, the spider themselves will, be the enforcers, and they will probably be even worse. So
yeah.
You have this a little bit in there. Okay, so we talked a lot about that one. Now we'll move on to the next in alphabetical order, which would be the crab. And I fear that the crab is probably the most conservative of all clans. I have not looked at the board, but there are 3 choices there. Drive the darkness before you, the classical crab bashes Onis. Protect the throne is more centered around, if I'm read that right, around keeping the old emperor safe. And deal with the shadows would be more clan war-esque of the story path.
Back when the crab were cool.
Yeah, I am afraid that there is no real realistic alternative to drive the darkness before you, because what I know from most crab players crab players I have met, they are really dig their beating up Onis.
Yep, absolutely. And the only thing I'd say about that path is it is potentially very costly. That's
yes,
and that's one of the things.
They will die in Dutch.
I had some really great discussions with John Zinzer, and one of the points that he made that I really liked was the fact that every path has to have its cost, and we have to be prepared to go to the clan players and say, okay, you chose this path, and we show them through the story and events and so on. Here's what happens. All these guys die. You lose this. You lose that. Okay, here's your next clan path choice. You sure you want to stay on this path? We do. Okay. So here's more costs, more things, more of your characters that you love dying, which in samurai drama isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, they're
in any drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Game of Thrones is successful.
So it's a chance for the if that's what the crowd players choose to pursue, that's cool, and it's a chance for them to show their dedication to that path, because it is potentially very costly, because the forces that they're going to be facing are to be very, very strong.
I'm already impressed by the crab's reproduction capabilities. They've been hit most hard by the Destroyer's War. So many samurais have died, and 20 years later they are up in full force. And I don't think that we have to say if they choose path 1. I would be majorly surprised if anything. I would be cool with a surprise because I think the third path would make for if nothing else really interesting decks in the CCG. But if they choose path 1, which they will, crabs will die left and right because they will go to war against the faction that is currently in the lead, which will be Spider to begin with. And if you sum that up, the death to the Destroyer's War plus the choice that's yet to come, they will have hard time of keeping their numbers up.
But if you go back all the way back to the good old days, Bearers of Jade, one of the best role-playing supplements that ever came out for L5 or indeed any role-playing game. The last chapter of that book was all about the crab and how they all died. Like, none of them lived past age 20, and anytime any of them did anything, 9 out of 10 of them would die. So the crab's amazing reproductive powers, ability to
tradition,
their numbers. Yeah. That goes back a long way. So
well,
the real freedom.
You've also got the 20 Goblin Winter thing, which they've probably had in effect every year for the last however long it's been since the Destroyer Wars. Hey,
I think
want to be in a clan?
it's still in effect since the Tower of Fear.
Yeah,
it's Gold Edition. It was like it's on all the time now.
Yep. You
never
want
turned it off.
You want a clan sanction? Go in there and get us something.
But how many people do they get from that? Okay, but no, we're going to different. We're passing on a tangent here. I think we still have 7 clans to come. So let's move on to the next one. So next in line will be Dragon. Where are those guys?
Yeah, Dragon are a complicated clan in the sense that it was interesting, challenging actually developing the path choices for them, I'm really curious to see how they're going to proceed with that. Incidentally, the Dragon, when I consult here, the Dragon also submitted 3 player developed clan path choices. Now, to some extent, they are variations on or sort of riffs on existing clan path choices, and it in a way that they think is better, worded better, and so on. But I'm really interested to see where the Dragon are going to go with their path choices, because that one with them, I'm really not sure. I'm really, like with the Crab, I tend to agree with you that there's probably going to be a real push to drive the darkness before them. But with the Dragon, I'm really not sure where they're going to go.
So let me shortly introduce them to everyone listening and everyone later on the wards. Okay, Save the Darkness from itself would be basically they will try to, as they did in the past, be a tutor to the Spider and try to influence them to be a little more righteous, or just try to stand by them to understand them, though it has an internal choice in itself. Then Bring Light to Dark Places will be defense. They would try to defend Shinseism, if I understand that correctly. And the 9 Dragons is a really interesting one because it's really complex. That's about, if I understand that, understanding every great clan and try to, bring more balance to them themselves, drive them to the greatest clan they could be. So it's an interesting
Is that the one that features dragon monks wandering the Empire and beating everyone up?
Yeah,
that's the one I want.
Gotta confess with that one, that really is a good example of an initial path choice, and one that will, if the Dragon choose that one, it'll really be developed by subsequent path choices. About every 3 months, there's going to be another round of path choices. That one is really going to be, I think that it will evolve. It's whereas again with the Crab, Drive the Darkness Before You, seems pretty straightforward. It isn't necessarily. We have some interesting ideas about that one too. But the Dragon one, we're not even entirely sure where that one would go, but we would really enjoy exploring it with the Dragon players if that's the one they choose.
Yeah. Jack or James, anything to add to that?
I kind of like that 9 Dragons path. I mean, Kokujin was a fantastic character, And he only got to, what was it, 2 of the kami that he got to understand, and man, imagine what we would have if we had a Kokujin who hit all 9. That would just be great and glorious.
That's right. And I think the path actually says confront, and if I recall the wording, confront and defeat, but you know, confrontation can take many forms, and defeat, you know, winning the confrontation can be, yeah, go ahead.
As long as the confrontation against the crane is a Sedaine contest, and I mean that's all it's got to be, right? I mean, we're talking about art and culture. The corrupted dragon tattooed monk who is bigger than a Hida and craftier than a scorpion beats the crane at a rap battle. That would be fantastic, and I think that would get so much.
Bring back Hitomi Sugahara.
Yeah, Ikebana flower arranging would be good too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm also.
I just want to see like a big tattooed Hitomi monk wander from the clan land to clan land and powerbomb one samurai from each clan. Stop. Yeah, you'll do.
Wordlessly wander up, leave the guys in the dust with a few bruises, and wordlessly wander off again. What was that?
There's a riddle for you, buddy. Powerbomb.
Whack.
Okay, and for greater clan understanding, wrestling tournament.
That's right.
Okay, so heading on to the next one, which will be Lion. The right hand chooses. So these are reminiscent choices that and problems that Lion have been, had to deal with in the past already. When the steel chrysanthemum came back, and Fulang back then took the throne, was that they are sworn to protect the emperor. So the first path is the path of true Bushido, and Bushido states whoever is emperor gets our loyalty. And so if we want to or not, if we like the spider or not, it does not play any role. If Kampeki takes the throne, Kampeki takes the throne, and we are to serve him. Then the other ways that are both called another way are deviations from this traditional Lion standpoint. One is to protect the old emperor. And another one, which I think is very interesting, is they will say, okay, screw this, we're throwing our own party, but with a lion. Yeah. And this one is, I think, for me, basically, this is the most intriguing one, is they can open their own empire with sake and geishas.
I think Lion are really blessed with 2 really good choices. Or 2 really interesting choices, and then I also feel sad because I'm 100% certain they're going to pick the boring one. But I think that the KYD Lion, follow the Emperor, doesn't matter who he is. Oh, now we're all Shadowlands. I think that one's a really interesting one, and I think the fuck it, it's going to be Lion Empire from here on out. That one's also an interesting one. But I know that it's going to be, yay, protect Saiken. We love Saiken. He's #1.
Yes.
Honor. but I think in terms of making because like some of the KYD stuff, the Lion in KYD were, I think, probably the best thing about KYD. And KYD, has for a direct-to-player set where half the cards weren't legal, for an environment that is now 12 years gone. I think it casts a long shadow in L5R, and I think that the direct echoes of it in that first Lion choice here, I find that really compelling, and that's something I would love to see.
I think the Lions starting their own empire would be great. Just go conquer the what would they be?
Everything. They would conquer everything, because the Lion would win all the tournaments, because Lion always win all the tournaments.
Go conquer the Yobanjin and then come back with shields and spears and phalanx and treat some samurai to real combat.
Not single combat, rank and file stuff. Yeah.
That would be kind of terrifying to the samurai warfare, because, I mean, outside of Shigenjas, who maybe are using blood magic, I don't know. What's
something forecasts itself here for the Phoenix Clan past person. Yes, but this is a thing that real samurai struggled a lot when the Mongolians came over for a visit. Organized infantry.
That raises a sort of tangential question, but I'll bring it up now, as I don't know that I'll ever get another chance. Dave, when are you going to bring muskets to L5R?
Oh yes, this is Will we talk about this later? Let's postpone this discussion after this topic because I have to address this topic too. It's time for the next time step of LFFR. I think there are about 0.1% of people agree with me on this one, but it's time. Even Japan was not so isolated to, advancement so long. Okay, so, but this one will go on too long now. Let's finish the clan choice now, then introduce a special topic afterwards.
Sorry, I'm just gonna say, why muskets? I think we'll just skip right over muskets. We'll go to rifles and machine guns. I like
steampunk Rokugan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so postpone that to later. Okay, so lion choices. I think we are basically through with the right hand of the empires, and I really hope, again, that's basically my comment to all clans, just to beg them, please don't do the obvious choice. Please do something cool. Please.
Do something interesting. Take a risk.
Yeah, I mean, the design team and the story team, they took a risk with that, a huge risk. And now if we all turn them down with every risk they try to take, we are basically sending a message, okay, guys, don't even try. Just, keep it going along. So, but I would save the rent for this one when I got to talk about Mantis choices. I will hand over the rent microphone to James, that he can rant about his favorite clan, the Phoenix. There are different choices here.
There's only one.
Okay. Okay. There are hypothetically, there are different choices. So the way of purification is basically a war against the shadow and try to understand it. Okay. The way of guardianship, isn't that protecting scrolls and stuff like that? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So and then there is blood magic. James, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So
get them.
Let's just see here. At the dawn of the Empire, nobody even wanted to form an alliance against the Isawa. The Isawa had, what was it? I think when they discussed it, like 800 members of that tribe. And the rest of the Empire was like, nope, we can't go fight them. Why? Well, if we fight them, then we're going to lose all of our guys, and then Fulung's going to kill everybody. I think that says all it needs to. The massed armies of the lion, the massed armies of the crab, the massed armies of every other clan did not want to fight the Phoenix. There's a reason the Phoenix are not ruled by the person who's a direct descendant of the Kami. And that they were the first one to do that. Shiba was the smart one. He figured out, well, we need these guys to stop Fuleng. Why? Because they're the most powerful Shugenja that were ever going to exist. And why did they have that? Blood magic. Now, there's a whole bunch of different speculation on all this other stuff about where it came in and where it got corrupted, but really, if you look at it, Fuleng would have never been bound for 1,000 years and allowed the Empire to actually grow so that it could actually fight him that second time without blood magic. Again, I mean, we get bad parts of that with Yijindan and Ayuchiban and all that, but, they brought in some filthy Gaijin crap, and that's why we need to really just purge the Empire of all the filthy Gaijin rubbish anyway. And, this is the first real opportunity we've had to have pure blood magic. If you look at Daigatsu's deal, as long as he was honest about it for the last however many years it was since the end of the Destroyer War, if he was true and honest about it, what Phoenix is not going to be tempted to, oh, there's this thing that doesn't come with the dirty penalties anymore. Let's figure out how to do that. And in the meantime, because the Shadowlands are always treacherous, which we're most keenly aware of, maybe more than any other clan than the Crab, let's figure out ways to protect ourselves while we're going about it, and how to ignore Kansen and all the other crap that comes along with it. I asked your tech guy to bring up a card. There's a guy called Asawa Saiga from Hidden City. He was the as far as the story is and all that about him, he used reverse psychology on Kinuye back when he was in her court at the City of Blood. He actually used like an analog of the Jade Penalty to make himself look corrupted for all the other Blood Speakers. But he was using blood magic and wasn't corrupt. His card is not corrupt. His whole thing was he was not corrupt. He was just trying to figure it out. And this was back then. And this is somebody who was practicing pure blood magic even before there was the ban on it. And this is a guy who was young at the time, So we're looking at somebody who's maybe 55, 60 years old now. Pretty good sensei to follow off of in template. I don't know. It may be a thing. And I've talked with various story people, and he has been declined a couple of times for a choice because they said that there are more appropriate things that could be done. But they haven't said that he's dead. So you could have this guy who figured out all this stuff beforehand and then just started coming and teaching people how to do blood magic again. And if there is pure blood magic, maybe Phoenix stopped losing every last war that they've been in. Phoenix is the only clan that has never won a war in the story of the game since it started. They have lost every single war that they've been in. They've even lost wars that they weren't even involved in. The third Yasuki War, when they tried to get in the middle and just stop them for a couple of minutes, their entire army was wiped out except for Tsukimi for getting in the middle of it and trying to say, guys, let's have like a 10-minute conversation. Like, no 10-minute conversation. You die now. So when that's the situation, when your clan is so bad at wars that you lose wars that you're not even participating in, maybe you should be picking something interesting. And then the other two leading paths with the Phoenix right now are two homebrews. One of them is effectively, we want elemental dragons back. Well, there's a sensei for that. The other one is, we want to do elemental magic and go and start conquering the Empire. Yeah, how many times has that worked in the past for the Phoenix? Good luck. I think really the only
I want to congratulate you, Jay. Sorry, no, you weren't finished. My bad.
Yeah, really the only way that you can maintain that sort of aggressive pacifism is by finding another source of power, and the only other place that's going to have another source of power is Maho. And if you've got pure Maho, that's probably your best bet as far as combating, this whole Shadowlands overlay onto Rokugan that's going to be happening with the breaking of the seals or whatever it is. Jack?
I want to congratulate you on keeping a straight face through all of that and pretending that you haven't all been filthy Mahosuke this entire time. That was really well done.
I mean, I did get Mizuhiko a card. We all know.
Okay. Yeah, I can.
We all know you.
Yeah. Sorry.
I can just wholeheartedly agree that this choice should be taken. I mean, come on, Phoenix guys. Earth magic is also already taken by Crab and by Dragon. Fire magic will probably be a thing of this new Spider Shugenya school that's coming up, and also of the Moshi if they go back to a traditionalist thing. Air magic is a thing that's practiced by Crane. Everything is taken away from you. You are not special with your elemental magic. You have a little more void, and this is all fine and cool. But something cool like Mantis with Thunder.
Yeah.
Go for your Maho. Go for your thing. Be powerful again. Be respected again. Go for it.
Be cool for once in your life.
Every other choice that Phoenix has is something that is a rehash of a rehash of a rehash. It's something that has been done. Has been done so many times that there are so many just bad iterations of it. It's not going to be something that continues to be interesting and continues to bring players in. And it's one of those things that you say, oh, you tell your friend who's looking, he's like, L5R is still a thing? And I'm like, yeah, and the Phoenix are practicing blood magic now. And they're like, wait, what? I want to play this again. And then you tell them it's pure blood magic and that they're doing it to, aggressively pacify the Empire that's now ruled by the Shadowlands. They're going to be like, wow, this is great. Let's start playing this game again. We've got a couple of people back just based on some of the new stuff that's happening in some of these choices. And then, I mean, I think I think this is the whole argument that I'll make is that clans not making interesting choices is probably not good for the game as a whole. And
yes,
this is that whole point that I was making with the players who are predominantly RPG players. They may not realize that in their strict singular definition of honor, that's the thing that we have to do. Let's continue to do this, even though gaming right now is kind of all based on ingenuity, invention, some reinvention, showing up with something new for a customer base, or showing up with something that mechanically other games are not doing. And if it's the same sort of thing that gets followed left and right every single time through L5R, there's going to be a huge problem, I think, in maintaining and growing a player base. If you have no innovation, you have nothing new, you just reskin something else, call it a different name, Soul Love, whatever, the same problems are going to arise that have happened in past iterations or past arcs in the game, where you're going to lose interest in the story because it's not going to be seen as mattered, or it's not going to be seen as, well, it's the same thing over and over and over again. When's the next Godzilla coming?
Yeah.
So that's my big rant on the Phoenix, and I think that's pretty much really where it comes in, and what the other clans should kind of look at their choices and use that as kind of a paradigm. Like, what's the interesting thing that we could do here?
Okay. Yeah, you're pretty right. So people, vote for peace through superior firepower.
Vote Maho.
Yeah, vote Maho. Okay, so I think James said it all, and we'll move on to the next clan in line. So this will be the Scorpion choices. They have one really cool choice. There is the Own the Shadow ninja thing they could do. Opportunity to admit chaos is more of the political mongering and try to profit from the chaos. And then there is screw this guy in particular choice, yeah?
Yep.
Just fucking someone over.
Yep.
I mean, normally they would take the Mantis because Scorpions like to do that, but you know we are out of the picture already. But you can make some friends with that. What they should do is they should just, in my opinion, it should be the following thing. They should choose Vengeance is Eternal, and then they should hold a big event where they stream on Twitch where people will also die. Yeah? And then they assign every clan a number. And then it's just rolled out. And then no reason, you.
That would be interesting.
And we have conflict. And we have
hate conflict. I love conflict. Yeah.
Deal with it, guys. We're going after Lion now.
For the sake of Irish People's Champion Dave Russell, it is I am bound to put in that the only option that can go is Ninja, because Dave wouldn't have it any other way. If the one in which the word ninja appears with the highest frequency is the one that the Irish people stand behind.
Okay, so
the what would be interesting about the Scorpion to decide to pursue a path that focuses on ninjas, we could see something that I think we saw hints of it. We saw the beginning of it, a real war in the shadows between the shinobi of the Scorpion clan and the ninja, the Goju and the Nanubi, of the minions of the Shadow Dragon. We started to see a little bit of that at one point a couple of arcs ago, and then it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't proceed. So it would be really interesting to see that, and I would love that, because I'm a terrific adherent of the Nothing, the formerly the Lying Darkness, now the Shadow Dragon. I played Dark Path of Shadow. That was my clan. I mean, I played the crap out of the Dark Path of Shadow when the Stronghold was legal. I love that the Way of Shadow. I think Jack mentioned Bearers of Jade as being a fantastic piece of work. I agree, but I also think Way of Shadow is another fantastic piece of work. I love that book. Yeah. So I'd love to see that. Again, this is not me as brand manager. This is me saying to the Scorpion, it'd be really cool if you guys did this. But, the choice is yours. So, we'll see what comes out of that. I know that the Scorpion there's a group of Scorpion players that have been working very hard on an alternate path choice too, which they submitted to us, and which we will, as we roll out the path choices that you guys will be voting on, you'll see some of these alternate path choices that have been put forward. There is a very interesting one that Scorpion players have put together.
If I had to say on a Scorpion path, I think the Scorpion should be single-minded in one and only one thing: kill the Shadow Dragon.
Ninjas!
That would be cool. That would be cool.
That should be what 1,000% of all Scorpion players vote for, and by 1,000%, I mean every other person should switch over to Scorpion. And
you're a great fan of the Shadow Dragon.
Switching over to Phoenix and voting Maho.
Well, I mean that's but the Scorpion choice should be like beyond everything else, kill the Shadow Dragon, because I think the Spider lose a lot of their ability to maintain that fear if they don't have the Goju and then Inube. They kind of
Banish the
powerful
darkness.
flashlight. Oh, there's the ninja shooting.
Okay, nice. So we have to tag along. There are still some clans to come. So we go to the big bad guy of the story, or let's say ambitious. We don't want to say evil here. And this is a spider. Okay, so we have the spider clan itself. Will have Embrace the Darkness, which is hardcore Chigoku, Shadowland Hordes, TPIO. Walk in the Light is rather more on the Hey, but in this case, the Shadowland Demolition is the conservative thing to do. So if we want to go in our tradition of the show to always go for the most progressive, mind-boggling thing.
On this option, the spider players have actually come up with a really good custom path.
Yeah.
I think probably one of the best custom paths that was developed, which was done by Justin Walsh was involved in it in a big way, and Rory Heffernan was the other sort of community leader on that. And they were talking about how the Spider have for a very long time seemed to have sort of identity issues as a clan. That sort of since they were legitimized, that they haven't really developed a strong character, or the story team hasn't always been sure what to do with them. And these guys who are both hardcore Spider players, very invested in that clan, have gone to like, what are the roots of the Spider? What are the thing that separates them from the other clans? And that is their dark mirror of Bushido, the Shoryudo virtues, which is the path they've put together, which is focusing on that aspect of the clan's identity, which I think is a really interesting one, because it has the sort of ruthlessness and it shies away, or it does like. The Embrace the Light path is just awful. It's just, any Spider player who votes for that, we will have to have words. The Embrace the Darkness path is, as you say, Andre, it's the conservative choice, right? To a certain extent. But that being said, I am of old a Shadowlands Horde player. I played Shadowlands Horde and I played Temple of the Ninth Kami. I didn't sign up to be a Spider Clan player. What I want is Onis. So for me, Embrace the Darkness it's the conservative choice, sure. But I think that for the Spider, specifically as a clan, I think embracing that Shoryudo aspect, it gives them something really unique, and it gives them something. It's a unique choice without being a sort of a safe one, I guess, or without it would help define their identity in a strong way. From the player, but that was defined originally from the player base, which I think would be a great example of players coming forward and being involved and active and having a real impact on the story. Because the Spider players that I know are also passionate. They seem to be so much more passionate than. And Dave, you may be able to correct me on this, but they've always detected a certain amount of resistance because one, design keeps giving them terrible decks, and two, story keeps giving them terrible story content. They get a sense that they are not as well loved within AG as they are loved by the people who have adopted them as their faction.
Right.
So I think for them to be able to define their own identity so strongly and say, this is what we want, which I think they've done a great job doing, and they put a lot of work into developing that path. I think that really that's the best choice for Spider.
Yeah, when we developed the path choices, the Spider were the first ones we did, and I mean, they really were when we thought about what to do with the Spider, darkness and relative light, right? So that's why they got the two path choices, and the guys like Justin and Rory and Mark Armitage and some other guys came back to us, and we kind of had some lengthy discussions with them, and they came up with this Shirito path. Which are very passionate about, and a lot of work has gone into developing it. It's an excellent example of a group of players looking at what was presented to them and saying, "Yeah, but we think we can do something else, maybe something better." And they've come up with something really interesting. In some respects, it kind of straddles the boundary between the other two paths. And one of the initial concerns when it was presented was, well, it looks like they're just trying to cherry pick the best stuff from each of the other two paths. But then when we drilled down into it and talked to them about it and had some really frank discussion about it, what it really comes down to is, in some ways, it's the riskiest of the paths, because you risk at the end of it not only having the Empire having turned against you, the Empire of Rokugan as opposed to an Empire of Kanpeki's Empire, but you also risk having Jigoku kind of going, wait a minute, why are we being, we're being brought out, deal with a specific situation, and then we get put away again on the shelf, and that's not the way we work. We're not a tool to just bring out when you need to use it and then put it away. We're Jigoku, and that potentially sets up just a really interesting idea that maybe we'll see some father-son conflict going on down the road.
Yeah.
Daigatsu versus Kanpeki, because obviously it's been well established in Daigatsu's character that he in his own way, he loves his son Kanpeki, and he wants absolutely what is best for his son and his descendants. So it'd be really interesting to see what would happen if those two actually found themselves on opposite sides of an issue, and actually we had some conflict going on there. That'd be really cool, I think.
Definitely.
I think the Shirito thing is good, and like I was saying, the conflict of RPG players having a large bearing on the story picks overall that is maybe not reflective is that whole, I'm just going to say it, garbage white spider movement. If you want to be a conflicted bad guy, play crap. Play Scorpion. You're doing what you need to do for the Empire, even though you're a scumbag. There's no place for that in the spider. It's garbage. That is the worst thing that I think is ever. That's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to L5R is that white spider movement. That is just.
Is this actually?
It's a thread that goes through the history of L5R. Every clan has at some point had their white spider movement. There was the honorable dragon movement. Making dragon boring. There was no blood sword for Kurohito for the crane, making crane boring. At some point in the game's 20-year history, every clan has gone, no, we don't want to be interesting. We want to be the same as we were before.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's going to
be eternally a part of L5R's identity, I think.
We will talk about that when we go to the Mantis. Okay, so, Spider, this homebrew sounds really interesting to me. So we have to go along to Unicorn, probably my second most favorite clan, because the first deck I actually had success with was a Manticorn deck. Half of personalities out of Clan Unicorn from a Mantis stronghold. Commander. Cool deck. But nevertheless, Unicorn choices. First part, assemble your forces and do your duty. We build an army of Ronins and with the help of Ronins and peasants, or we protect the peasants and will not use them as cannon fodder, and then we go hardcore to war. Is that right?
Basically, yeah. They have a subsequent choice to make there with respect to the commoners of the Empire. Yeah.
Yes. Path 2 is Alliance. This was helping another clan achieving a goal. And other allies. So this was a way of finding Ronins, for example, or another faction. Mm-hmm. I want someone to take in the honorable ogres.
Oh,
yes,
gee, that's an interesting one.
I really want that. I like the idea. When ogres wander off too far from the festering pit, they become decent people again. Because traditionally they were not corrupted. They were I think the first champion of light in prehistoric times was an ogre who fought against the Rakashar back in this time. Mm-hmm. So there is basically a faction if the ogres, and let's say clans have something else to do than to protect their borders all the time when such big internal tumults come, and some ogres wander off a little further away from the festering pit, and suddenly stuff starts to make sense in their head again. Cool thing. But there are definitely some cool opportunities in the Unicorn choices. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that?
I just think the Death Priest should join with Kanpeki, and then the Unicorn do whatever else they're going to do. I think that would be a fantastic divide where you have this weird skew in part of the Celestial Order does kind of side with Daigatsu, in the Lords of Death, because now there's this big conflict again with the second Rise of the Dark Moto. You could have that with the Death Priest, and I think it would work out really fantastic. And I think one of the interesting things that you could do in that is have a clan civil war where you kind of have the unicorn, you know, either of the paths. They bring in somebody else, like you're talking about the pure ogres or protecting the peasants, but the Death Priests decide that that's weak and ineffectual, and that this is the will of the death, or this is the will of the Shiten Yen Wang to bring about death and destruction, and denying that is a huge problem in their scope of the view of the celestial heavens and everything. And this, you know, the Death Priests are all about, you know, bring more people to us, and I think you could have a really good opportunity there, but I'm not sure that the Unicorn are going to go for it, but they should.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic conflict of just inside of a clan without really getting too wild with it, because it's a part of one family that goes. And as much as the Moto Death Priests are cool and all, the Moto should be more just the savage Mongols without their strange outside religion seeping in. It should be sort of the Ayuchi. They've already got too many different forms of Gaijin magic. You've got the Ayuchis with their spell stones. You've got the Moto with their death priests. You've got some of the Ide who practice these other things where they're talking with the nature spirits, and that aren't, you know, the realm of the Chiku Shido or whatever it is, the realm of animal spirits. Yeah. You've got a little bit way too much of this different Gaijin magics going on in there. It's a little bit, for once, it's a little bit too complicated, right? I think the Death Priest siding somewhere else, and that being like sort of the dark mirror of the Gaijin magic would be kind of a cool thing to see.
Yeah, but for this
person's interpretation,
for this to happen, old wounds need to be mended, because the last time that the Lords of Death sided with Jingoku, it didn't end well for them, so they didn't have a good time with that.
This wouldn't necessarily be siding explicitly with them, like the Death Priest not necessarily being like corrupted, but like they see this as an opportunity to get more dead bodies to the Lords of Death, and just here's more fuel for our religious fervor, right? They see that this great conflict is there, and they just go out and start harvesting all these souls for the Lords of Death. And the rest of the Unicorn are like, guys, that's not cool. We're trying to save lives. It's like, no, the Lords of Death are just, they don't care. They just want fuel. Just do it that way, and then split.
Yeah, they are the Lords of Death, after all. It's kind of in their title.
Right. And I mean, it makes sense at that point.
Oops.
I mean,
never mind.
The Death Priests have always been about, you know, they've never shied away from the conflicts. They've always been involved with them. When they see there's a conflict, it's more glory to the Lords of Death. It's, I mean, hate to bring in another game's thing, but, you know, skulls for the skull throw and blood for the blood god. It's really kind of where it should be, and this Chaos and Kampeki bring it about. It's a perfect opportunity for them to get more power for the Lords of Death to be in a higher station in the Celestial Heavens. And the Lords of Death, I don't think would be, I mean, we're not talking about corrupting the Moto, we're just talking about the Moto being sort of like the heralds of destruction. They're going to follow around and be like crows at battlefields and things like that. It would be great.
Yeah. So any other faction you would like to introduce maybe in the Unicorn? Any question to all three of you? Anything you would think of the, you know, ally choice?
Oh, I think they should go off and get help from the Odatai. Bring the Odatai back to Rokugan to help restore the Empire, because that could not possibly go wrong.
No. They are not conquering in any kind of way.
No, not at all. I think they would help, and then they would say, well, our work here is done, and they would turn around and go home.
Yeah, that's what they do. I think it's the inevitable grasp of being nice and leaving again.
That's right.
That's their motto. Yeah. Okay. So, last clan. I saved that
now
for...
it gets controversial. Hooray!
Oh, yeah. No,
The Mantis, yes.
Okay, the Mantis. So, the Mantis, my thing. First of all, I have to say, I'm amazed. I'm amazed of the amount of balls that were needed for that. And I have to salute you guys. First of all, for me, as a deck builder, things are even better than they would have been if I would have a starter, because now I have 9 strongholds. And the sensor is for that. So
now you can finally
I
start
will-
winning a tournament. Hooray!
I will find a loophole and I will crush faces. No, it's a really cool, it's a really exciting thing, because first of all, a story where everyone is happy all the time and where there's no controversy at all is probably not a good story. We are right about that, bringing up stuff from other other series or brands. It's a Game of Thrones thing. People die that are lovable, and the show is still successful. So with axing the Mantis and bringing them to total destruction, but also bring them a real choice to reforming their clan, to really fight for something. I think with no other choice, there's so much on the line as for Mantis, how they will rebuild. My only criticism is that you should have stated more clearly that, okay, now you are destroyed, you could come back, but if you don't make the effort, you will just die. I think this would be even more, there would be even more outrage on the forum, but to make clear that there can be losers in this game. Because if there are no losers in this game, then there are no winners in this game.
That's right. Actually,
Yeah.
it's that speaks to something that applies to every clan. There's a saying that failure is not an option, but that's not true. Failure is an option. It's always an option, and it has to be an option. No matter which clan we're talking about and which path they embark upon, whether it's the crab choosing to drive the darkness before them, or the crane choosing to do what they must, or the scorpion becoming all ninja-y and fighting a shadow war, they have to be able to fail. They have to be able to lose, because if that possibility doesn't even exist, then winning is completely irrelevant. So I think it's important that everybody understands that we're going to do everything we can to avoid setting people up for failure. And I mean, yes, there is a certain amount of discomfort about, what if my clan's decks suck, in this arc or whatever. Understood. That's why we need to have more ways of interaction than just CCG results, although they're going to be very, very important. But definitely, there has to be the opportunity for failure. That's what puts excitement and interest and tension into the game, and that's what puts something at stake, because otherwise, what's the point, right?
Yes, really
So,
true.
is from the mouth of Dave Laderoute, is it possible for other clans to wind up going the way of the Mantis according to how things play out?
It is.
Could it happen to any other clan?
It could. And just to talk about the Mantis in particular, what I wish we had done with the Mantis, in fact, what I wish we had done, if we had a time machine, could go back. Well, as I've told people, if I had a time machine and could go back in time and do stuff, changing things about L5R would probably be pretty low on the list. There's a lot of things I think I'd rather do with a time machine. But if I restrict it to L5R, then ideally what we would have done is we would have gone back and we would have created a situation where the Mantis could choose, right? You can choose to do this. It will probably or will certainly result in the virtual destruction of your clan, but you will get this amazing thing, this amazing restoration story, this amazing tale of redemption. You will get, you will be able to claw your way back. Or you can choose something else, which is safer, but the cost of that is that you don't accomplish what destroying, like in the case of the Mantis, they're going to do something which is going to be pretty pivotal in saving the Empire or saving a large component of the Empire. If they don't do that, then the implication is, well, that doesn't happen.
Right,
Yeah. So to pick up on that, yeah, we could very well go to a clan, depending upon how the past choices go, and say, look, Clan X. I'm not going to name a clan here in particular because I don't want that to be attached to my name, but look, Clan X. you followed this path.
Heard it here first. Dave Laderoute wants the crane to die.
That's right. Yeah.
No, everyone wants that. That's nothing special.
We followed your path choices for the past 2 years, and they've led you to this point where you now face a really hard decision. If you continue on this path, you will face destruction. Here is what the good outcome of that will be. Here's what the reward for that will be. If you change paths, you have an opportunity for salvation. But here's what you don't get, or here's what you lose as a result. So that then the clan have to dig deep and decide what it is they want to do. And I think that opportunity existing organically from the story. I don't want to just drop out of the sky and say, okay, Crane, do you want to blow up or not? We'd like to see it organically flow out of the story. So if we have a clan that chooses their path and they follow it, and it becomes progressively clearer and clearer that they're on a path to destruction, then we need to actually say at some point, you're on a path to destruction. The next path choice you make will determine if you are going to effectively be destroyed, similar to the way the Mantis were, or if you're going to do something safer.
Yeah.
Following on from that a little bit, and from something Andre said, I actually think that the way you did wind up doing it, so I don't know a single Mantis player who was told they're nuking the Mantis and who went, that's bullshit. I don't want my clan to get nuked. Every passionate, serious Mantis player I know who was told what was happening was like, that is awesome. That is exciting. That gets me jazzed. Yeah. And more than that, people who aren't Mantis players see it, or people as they're the Mantis players and also everyone else sees it as a statement from AEG that you're willing to try things and take risks and shake things up and do things a little differently. So I think that if you did have your time machine, that is not something I would change. I think that for a very big and bold risk, it's something that worked out really, really well for now. As long as you can follow through on the rest of it, I'm sure it'll be fine. But I think that the way you did that actually worked out really well, and I think that it was a great sign of the culture change, or the new attitude, or the willingness to really try and do something a bit different.
So I really appreciate that.
Don't regret that choice. I think it worked out really, really well.
No regrets at this point. We're actually really, as a matter of fact, I've had communications from, there's 3 of them that I can think of, 3 specific communications I've had from players who have come to me from 3 different clans, saying they represented 3 different clans, who were saying, I would really like you to consider doing what you did to the Mantis to our clan at some point in the future. Yeah. That's how much people are saying this is really cool. So that's really exciting, and it is really gratifying that the players are embracing it.
Yeah, I also want to reiterate it's important, as Jack already said, that you gave us the X without giving us the choice. I think that's important because there needs to be an example set so that people see that this thing could actually be cool. Because I'm really scared with these choices that the total votes will be too conservative and not bold enough. And if you would have given us the choice, there are voices on the forums who are critical and skeptical.
Oh yeah.
And I think that the people who hear we get axed and are happy, I don't think that they would, even though they say it's cool, I'm not 100% sure if they would, if they ever given the choice, make this choice. I think they are cool with it afterwards. I think
no public vote will ever produce the Red Wedding.
Yes. And the Red Wedding was important for the coolness, overall development. And even if many people afterwards say the Red Wedding was cool, okay, we have to change the comparison somehow. But they would not choose like this initially. But now that we have this with the Mantis, and if it gets followed through, and if it's a nice thing, if it was exciting in the end, then people have a reference. Okay, if we get destroyed, we can be as cool as the Mantis were in Onyx Edition. But you have to force this on us, force our own happiness on us, that you have an example. And even if it doesn't work out and it was not good, people know what it's like. The choice has to be made. Things have to be tried out. So, and now that we have made the destruction of the Mantis and what it means clear, let's go over the path choices. So, there are 3 path choices. The first one is the Yoritomo hero story. The second one is the Great Alliance. It's Yoritomo's Alliance, again with more clan choices. with a few other nuances like we'll not be a great clan, Mantis will not run the whole show. And the next one will be that the Mantis turns away from an traditional samurai ruled family to a merchant ruled. A new class of influence will come in, like a conglomerate of merchants that will have most of the political say. And yeah, I hear that a lot. But I actually believe that the Kolat thing, everyone thinks of, when people think of Kolats, they always think Yasuki. And I know that the cover book that was used to introduce the Kolat...
I still think Unicorn, thank you very much.
That's a thing of the past. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's what they want you to think. Don't believe them.
Okay. No, but in the current iteration of the CCG, that's what people often imagine the Kolat to be. And I know that the cover book for the RPG that was used to introduce the Kolat was disguised as a merchants and prize book for stuff like that. The introduction was the most boring thing that has ever been printed.
It's wonderful.
It's really wonderful. And but that does not have to be the Kolat. And, this is still another choice we could have to take. So if people shy away from it because it's a Kolat, if people say, yeah, we want this because it's a Kolat, that would probably still be a choice that is there to be made afterwards, as we progress down a path. But there's really no reason to believe that it has to be the Kolat. That's another thing.
I think the most Kolat choice actually is the Great Alliance for them, because you're taking in all of the minor clans and probably doing some of what the Unicorn are going to do with protecting the people, which is really what the Kolat are about. It's take the Heavenly Order and spin it because it's not fair to the bottom. And the minor clans and really past the minor clans and the peasants, there's not much further down from most of the great clans in Rokugan. And if you have this conglomeration of everything else, there's millions and millions and millions of peasants and people in Rokugan. There's maybe 1 million samurai.
And
you put a knife or a sharpened stick in every one of those hands, and it's a problem.
Or a musket.
Oh, musket.
Muskets.
Yeah, Jack, keep quiet. We'll come to that. Yeah. So, but first of all, I have to finish my rant about why every Mantis player should choose option number 3, and why we should definitely never, ever vote for option number 1 and 2. And the main reason for this is, there are 2 reasons for that. The first one is, those are the most repetitious choices that have ever been brought up in all the clan choices, because that's exactly what happened to the Mantis while they were still a minor clan. The first choice is basically Yoritomo, the single-handedly carved the destiny of the Mantis clan over Yoritomo's. It was even named after the man, Yoritomo's alliance. He brought the Mantis to glory in an heroic effort, and it was a cool story. He was bold, he was an interesting character, and people really loved that. But it's an old hat now. It was done in the same way, it was. And the second thing that came up, the second choice, is basically Yoritomo's alliance. It's a little different because we will probably not be as dominant as we were in the Yoritomo's alliance when we choose this path. But still, while it has some new nuances, it's basically relying on what we did in the past. And Mantis should be the most progressive clan there is. We are unique in our history among the clans. The only ones that deviate even further would be Spider. And in our core, we always have been about ambition, about raising us up, trying to be better than we were the day before, and clawing our way up from the lowest of stages, from a simple guy denying his, got his legacy denied, and moving to an island, carving out his destiny, bringing himself forward. But I think that we have not reached the pinnacle of what Mantis is all about, because our goal in the past was only to be on the same level as everyone else. And that's where we stopped. We were content with being a great clan. But this is not, Mantis should be more ambitious. We should try to be more, we should be leading. We can only be bigger than the other clan, fulfill our complete ambition, if we are willing to change our concepts, be something more than a great clan, introduce something new. Also, I think it's extremely silly when faced with a completely new situation. We are not back in the days where the Mantis was a growing minor clan, where our resources were gathering, where we had many people joining us, where we had a power base with no political say. And as in real revolutions all around the world, if you have a power base with no political say, things start to move. Okay? This was our situation back in the minor clan days, where we basically blackmailed all the other great clans. We are not in this situation right now. We don't have this power base. I have read some of the homebrews that were suggested for the Mantis. One of them was, take the throne. Yes, we were completely wiped out now, and then we are going to take the throne. How's this going to work out? We have no power base, and we have to accept that fact that we have taken a hit, and we should not behave like we have not taken a hit. We have taken a gigantic hit, and people try to mend it with, getting in alliance with the minor clans. But why should the minor clans want to join us? We are really down and out. If I were the Dragonfly, I would join the Dragon now, not the Mantis. If I were a Ronin, I would swear fealty to the Crab, not the Mantis, because this is not what gets me through the day. So we have to move forward in a way that only a Mantis could do. We really have to... What does the Mantis have to offer? We have lost all our riches. The only thing that we really can promise is political power to a power base that did not have it before. Like we were back in our minor clan days. We had wealth, we had resources, but we had no say. And this is what we can offer. This is what no other clan would be willing to offer. Everyone would be willing to take in Ronins, like that. This is another clan choice. People who are more wealthy than us could pay the Ronins more. People who are more powerful than us right now could promise them more protection from the darkness. Yeah, or even just if I were Ronin, I would frankly just join the Spider, because they would probably allow it if I'm strong enough. Chorido, it's in their culture, and I would probably not be killed because I had the mightiest army backing me up. I would never join the Mantis. We have to accept that we are down, and we have to live on our fact of being ambitious, being ingenuine, and give something that only we can do. And this is power to the people who have the resources right now. A merchant that would join the Crab would have protection, would have wealth, but he would have no say. A merchant who brings all his resources, and then with the resources come the Ronin. This is not ruled out. With the resources come the Ronin.
First you get the money.
Yeah, first you get the money, then everyone else turns into your bitch. And we can do that. We can do that. We can make that. We can get the money, and then we can buy a minor clan. But this is what we have to give, what we can give right now. We can give political clout. And that's the only resource we have to spend. And all other choices, in my opinion, if we have a hero, he can stand on a mountain and scream. He's not Yoritomo. He has no backup. Yoritomo had an army. We have nothing. Our hero, what shall he do? He's alone. A single man crying against the storm. It's a heroic story. It's cool. But it is utterly without effect. Our best chance and the coolest way to influence, to move forward Rokugani society would be the merchants. And then we would be something new. We would be more than a great clan. We have more resources. And then maybe we would not try to be like everyone else. But on the long run, when we are richer and more wealthy, more powerful than everyone else, we turn the whole society on its head and have all the other clans trying to be as good as we are. And this is where the ambitious core of Mantis should be. We should not any longer be the people who try to be accepted by everyone else, but we should try to outgrow everyone else. And this is our chance, and this is why you all have to vote for the third choice, the Merchant Empire.
Holy crap, now I want to vote for the third choice.
Go for it. Yeah.
Go on.
It's called the Rinn Restoration.
Yeah. Okay. So publish this rant in the Kabuna board and turn the votes around, because we are not leading the scores, and I, by the life of me, cannot imagine why. And again, please don't fall back into old patterns. We said that so many other points. Please don't take the boring choice. Don't take the repetition of history. Don't be the crab who say crush the Oni and that's all. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Don't do that.
But let's take a look at this. How long has it been since crabs really gotten to crush on some Onis? It's been too long since crabs.
You had a lot of chance of being crushed by Onis.
Yes, but they haven't gotten to do their thing, which is crush on the Onis.
Yeah, they have a major crush on Onis.
They do. Tentacle obsession or something. I don't know.
Oh my.
Okay, I think this topic of the story choices, and rightfully so, took a long time, and we are running a little over time, but I think it's deserved for such a big chance.
Great. Yep.
So we'll, if it's okay with you guys, we continue with the topics.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, Jack, you get your 5 minutes of muskets now. Go for it. And I will back
I
you
don't
up
even
in
need.
that.
I don't even need 5 minutes. Like a big part of the period of Japanese like history and literature. And I'm not going. I know Rakugan is not Japan, but you are emulating a specific type of story. Sengoku Jidai drama stuff.
Yep.
Akira Kurosawa, those kind of guys. All of these stories are about the death of the samurai caste.
Yeah.
All of the best samurai stories are about how the way of the samurai is obsolete. Any samurai story you find, that is ultimately what they come down to. And a big part of that is guns. Rakugan has been static for so long, and I think you were actually right when I brought it up, that the more interesting way to do it, rather than just go, yeah, okay, we're going to more accurately, or again, because accuracy isn't important, right? But we're going to emulate more closely the genre from which we were born, is sort of a start. But I think, as you mentioned, moving it up to sort of the Meiji Restoration or something like that, something when this very static and staid society, which had been around for so long, undergoes significant social, technological upheaval. That, as you mentioned it, that sounds really interesting. And maybe going all the way back to when we started, and I was talking about how L5R had the zeitgeist in the 90s, and that zeitgeist has now changed. And I personally detest steampunk. I hate it and everything about it. But it is it is more current than Sengoku. It is more current than Sengoku Jidai now. But I think that as a suggestion of something radical you could do, because it's a period of history that you can get inspired by, which has the sort of the traditionalism. The samurai are still there. The samurai caste still rules. All of the old traditions are still very much alive, but they're now clashing with this new and radical new changes are coming upon this society. I think that's something that could work really well. A really good example of someone who did that quite recently, actually, there was the Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that.
It's based on a sort of a similar period of sort of that melting pot pan-Asian culture that Rakugan is based on as well. They did their first big block of stories, which was what we'll call sort of the high fantasy story. And then having done that, they said, okay, now let's mix it up. Let's take this very traditional society, or society that is inspired by a very traditional society, and blow it up. Let's do something really interesting and introduce a big, really radical change. Could be something really, really interesting. The other way you could take that would be to do like a prequel, because so much of the problem with the story is with L5R is that you've got this huge amount of sequel baggage that you've built up over 20 years, right? You've got this enormous breadth of continuity, and part of the energy and the excitement of the clan war was that none of this stuff was developed yet. The map had all the locations on the map hadn't been filled in. There was this whole world to explore, new exciting things around every corner. Whereas now everything is so well mapped out and well known, and we've been through these story arcs so many times, and you can't help when you're mining the same, strip of material, you're only ever going to be able to get so much out of it. Whereas some kind of proper radical change could potentially be a way to get people really energized about L5R again. Maybe, I don't know. But most importantly, just muskets. Have muskets. Muskets are great.
There is gunpowder technology in the setting. I am not going to go on record today and say you will get your muskets, but I think the principle, you're absolutely right, and that we need to upend the setting. Again, conflict is where dramatic tension comes from. Dramatic tension drives story. So one of the things that's so compelling about the Lord of the Rings is the fact that the quest of Frodo and the Fellowship of the Ring to destroy the ring basically brings an end to an age in Tolkien's world and starts a new one. It's a period of change and upheaval, and we're I hope we're demonstrating we're prepared to do that with like what we're doing with the setting now. It may be It may still be somewhat incremental, but it's a step in that direction. I personally have no problem with introducing great upheaval to the setting, because I think it will keep it fresh. And you're absolutely right. If we simply try to keep Rokugan in the state that it's in and has been in for many years, that we're eventually going to really run out of stories to tell. We'll just be telling the same stories in different ways.
Like you already, in fairness, like you sort of have, like at the end of the Destroyer War, we'd all seen that story so many times.
Yeah.
When like I dropped in Celestial and I was like, oh, Fu Leng's back. Of course, Fu Leng's back. It wouldn't be L5R if Fu Leng wasn't back. But at the same time, really, that was the sign of the fatigue was there.
Yeah.
You kept it fresh with Daigatsu for a while, but.
Yeah. No, I like I say, I'm not going to promise muskets or rifles or machine guns or quick firing artillery or whatever. But I think what I will promise is that we're going to look for every opportunity we can find to keep the setting fresh. And if that means some pretty significant upheavals, then we'll take them on.
Just do one thing. Give me a crab warrior with a Shugenya powered power armor, a big Tetsubo in one hand, and a cannon in the other. Then I'm content. Okay.
You got XP2.
So let's move on. The next topic. So we are closing the story topic down now. This has been the biggest part of the show, and we are in overtime. But when that's okay with you, we'll continue normally with the show. James is already in overtime mode.
I've been keeping pace the entire time. You guys are good.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So
sorry, it's two beers from your guys' ends of the world, both from the 1750s.
Warsteiner, dunkel.
Yeah,
okay.
And then the one that I know all the Irish hate. They love this shitty beer that was brewed near
Guinness.
where I lived. So there's started. So.
Oh, you're so international. Just thank you, German and Irish, and yes.
You're missing Canadian beer
though. They didn't have Molson at the liquor store. I didn't.
Oh, okay.
And then it's actually brewed in Colorado, where I used to live. So.
I know.
Okay.
It's not actually Molson anymore. Labatt. I probably could have got some Labatt.
Yeah.
But I didn't look for it. I'm sorry.
So guys, moving on. Current Kotei season. So what I would like to discuss is just pretty briefly, because it's still going on. I go to my second Kotei after I botched my first one in Paris next week. Though I'm still basically involved there myself. The current environment. So there was a post recently on the Strange Assembly, which listed all the percentages of how the clans are doing and the balance thing. But before we go on the numbers and the hard numbers, I just want to ask you, how does it feel? Ooh. How does 20 festivals feel to you as a competitive environment? Who wants to start? Yeah. Jake.
I have thus far really, really enjoyed it. I've certainly much more than Ivory Edition, and obviously much more than Emperor Edition. Yeah, I think there's a really good diversity in the environment right now. I know in the States you guys have struggled, for reasons with Mantis.
I don't understand it too. Yeah, but
I've struggled because I drink too much at tournaments. There's a thing by Balthus.
We all drink too much at tournaments.
No.
That's not an excuse.
There's a post by Balthus about Colorado that I should have won that tournament if I made one play different, and I was too stupid to see it at the time because of brain fog.
That's every tournament, right?
Well, no. This is not from my mouth. This is from his. This is somebody else saying I shouldn't have won this tournament because he screwed up when he should have done something different. It's not. It doesn't count if it's not me. So.
Okay.
I'm not sure that there is any clan. Like in Ivory Edition and obviously in Emperor Edition, there were times where if you were a clan loyal player of one specific clan, there was just no. It wasn't even that you couldn't win. There was no point turning up.
Yeah.
If you were like, I'm going to play Phoenix, sure, why not? Yeah, in Ivory, I'm going to play Phoenix. No matter what, there was just no point in you turning up. It was just a waste of time. You're just going to aggravate yourself. In 20 festivals, I'm really not sure that that's the case. I feel like any clan loyal player can go to a tournament and if they put the work in and they get a little bit lucky, which is all anyone can ever ask for with L5 or with any card game, right? I'll put the work in and hope I get a little lucky. And if any player of any clan can do that and make a cut, I think. Now, I'm not as convinced that anyone can turn up and go, yeah, I definitely have a solid chance of winning this tournament. But I feel like once you make the cut, it's all just luck anyway. So I think in that regard, it's an interesting environment, but also the diversity of deck types that's there. It's a real deck. Like I'm a deck builder at heart, right? I mean, I love building slightly unusual decks, and that's sort of my philosophy when it comes to tournaments is always to try and play something a little bit unexpected. And 20 Festivals has been great for me in that regard because there's so much flexibility within clans, how you want to do things. That like two decks that are setting out to achieve the same like broad end goal can go about it in very different ways in the hands of two different players, and I think that's really, really good. And not just that, but that those alternative approaches can be tournament viable.
My stray observations was that Ivory was very much about winning the unopposed battle. Ivory was when you could put more force on the table and trade faster than anyone else. You are probably ahead. And this catered to... that's why I think that one of the strongest decks in Ivory was turn 2 Blitz deck from Mantis, which was absurdly fast and had some open control, and you just traded faster than everyone else. And you could not make so many play mistakes because main battles were, defense was really hard to do, and basically it was just trading back and forth. 20 Festivals, the first thing that I noticed when I started playing 20 Festivals is I could screw up again, and badly so. I lost so many battles, in the past it was, even in Emperor, if you had the better deck, it's still like this, but if you have the better deck, you would so totally destroy even a good deck. If you just had an amazing deck and the opponent has a great deck, you would still totally obliterate him. No chance, dead in the water from the beginning, and you could even screw up while doing that. So I'm at heart also a deck builder. I think I'm 2 times better at building decks than at playing this game. I make a lot of mistakes when going on it, but so this is the first thing that I noticed. You can have, even if the deck is in your mind, or perceived or not perceived, but like for the reason of argument, say that you have the better deck, you can lose against people with the worst deck, and it's fast, Yeah, you really have to think when playing, and this is new because every battle action counts, and you don't get wiped so often, stuff like that. So it's really cool. For balance, I think our play groups here in Germany are not so big. I try to play a little bit online, but you meet a lot, if you want to test on high competitive level, online play, you meet a lot of casual players also. So it's hard to really judge where the environments won. I was at one Kotei, but I played nearly only against Honor, and I cannot judge everything, but I think it's pretty balanced. The US struggles a little more with the Mantis Shikai deck, and I want to iterate my opinion on Mantis Shikai. I don't even think that it's the best Mantis deck. Yes, I'm really convinced that it isn't. And the reason, the most broken decks that are most deforming for the environment don't necessarily have to be the strongest deck. My main point to make this argument was when we look back at Emperor Edition. There was this nearly unbeatable deck out of, Foothold of the Mat. It was absurd. It top placed 1, 3, 2, and 3 in the Euro Championships. And it was taking the stronghold completely out of context, ignoring the win condition that was printed on it, and built a deck with 32 holdings and 8 personalities. And those 8 guys made you the game. Or like the World Champion did, nearly no personalities.
No personalities. Personalities are too slow.
Exactly. And a month early, and this was the most environment deforming deck there was. It was the strongest deck.
I think that Euros tournament was probably the worst environment in the history of L5R.
Yeah.
In terms of the game being enjoyable to play, I think that Euros environment was the absolute nadir. L5R was never at a lower point than it was at that tournament.
Okay, so but my point I want to make up, a few months earlier at Gen Con, there was a special event, Fudo against Foothold of the Mat. And Fudo won that one. And But on the other,
they could play Purge of Fudoism, which was
no, they were all running 3 Footsteps of Madness, which made the Stronghold ability not work. You couldn't buy any gold on your first turn.
Oh yes, this one. Okay, but this deck, but the deck didn't even turn up in the main event. It was not seen. But there was another environmentally deforming deck that was Kalanis Landing. Kalanis Landing was not as strong, but way more obvious. Kalanis Landing decks built themselves.
Are you going to make a good faith argument in defense of Kalanis Landing right now?
No, never. It was. I just want to say it was a terrible thing. It was a terrible thing. But in addition of being strong, it built itself. It was enormously easy to build. You just take every carding. It says Megaspirit. It says Megaspirit. It's an expensive good personality in deck build.
And it costs gold. It does. Actually,
yeah, and it was a strong deck, and so it gets taken a lot to tournaments, and it wins a lot. It's environmentally deforming, even though it's not the best deck. Shikai Mantis builds itself not to the same extreme as Kalanis Landing did, because there are still many variations. But it's really easy to build a really strong Shikai Mantis deck, because what Shikai Mantis basically does is I just put more stuff on the field. And if you just put a lot more stuff on the field than your opponent, if the stuff you put is maybe not so well thought out in general, or not so good, it doesn't really matter. You just have more stuff, you win. And this is the main issue I have with Mantis Shikai, and this is, I think, why it's so environmentally deformed right now, is because with considerable less effort, you can build a way stronger deck disproportionate to the building effort. And then if you have someone who puts a lot of effort in, it gets even worse. Because I don't want to discredit anyone who built a Mantis Shikai deck, but I just say that people can build a really strong deck way easier than, for example, if they try to build from another clan, another deck. Yeah, even thought.
Phoenix Military versus Shikai. Phoenix Spell Military versus Shikai. One is a lot more difficult than the other. One of them, if you hand the basics and fundamentals of some Shikai Mantis, you can tell somebody who's been playing the game.
The skill ceiling is low.
Yeah.
And then you tell somebody who's been playing for 3 years, here's the card pool for Phoenix Spell Military. The two of them could both end up going, barely winning record at like 3-2 at a Kotei. They could both end up with that record. And, one of them's had to play circles around his other players because he's got a more narrow deck. The other one's just like, I just started this game, whatever. I have a winning record at my first tournament.
Yes. And I think, for example, my opinion, the strongest Mantis deck is Aranai Sensei. Aranai Sensei decks, if you change one card in this deck, it can make a day and night difference, because your toolbox, and if this one card is missing and it was an important card for the environment, you are really screwed. You're really screwed. So it's really harder to pilot, I think. It has a higher skill ceiling. And I think it has, I'm not sure because I haven't tested it. I think just from looking at it, it might have a little more potential. I might terribly fail with it, okay, but the just thing I want to say is that there is a form of imbalance in that Mantis Shikai has such a low skill ceiling and is still so strong. And I think one thing is, this happens all the time when you print additional resources on starting in play cards. For example, Shikai gives you a new resource, it gives you just more of a resource you already have, Dynasty Flips. And the Mantis Stronghold gives you new resources, gold and Fate Draw. And if you just put too many resources, if you just build a deck that has more resources than other people can just fight the war of attrition better. And this gets problematic. So I would like, this is something that has to be taken more attention to when designing an environment. Look at resources givers in any way, in forms of Dynasty Flips, in forms of Fate, and in forms of gold. Mm-hmm. Because two things combined here, they are strong and they are easy. And when this happens, then we see something like 40% of people playing Kalanis Landing at the tournament. Yeah. And Kalanis Landing was easy and overpowered. I am not going to defend this stronghold.
Cool. On the subject of Aranai Sensei, it's an interesting topic you raised, because obviously, like, the Aranai Sensei decks can be built out of a number of clans, So I've seen lots of, because the Fate decks for RNI decks tend to look quite similar, regardless of which Dynasty deck you're playing it with. Like if you're playing it out of Mantis or Spider, for instance, the Fate deck tends to look very similar.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe I have to object a little. For example, I play in my RNI Sensor deck, I play 5 personalities with 3 chi. I play SAS in meditation and stuff like that. To get there,
You're playing Jank. Gotcha.
yeah, I'm playing weird stuff. But yeah.
what I've found for RNI decks, as opposed to more sort of straightforward military decks, is that it is very, very, very dependent on its fate hand, and it tends to gas itself quite easily. You have a lot of tricks, which is great, but I've found from both playing with RNI decks and playing against them, that most of the time you go, yeah, do this trick, do this trick, do this trick, look how clever I'm being, look at this amazing efficiency I'm getting out of all my actions. And the other guy goes, I haven't played any cards from hand yet. I play 1 card to get a +3 force bonus. I win.
Yeah, but still the potential is, for example, the way I try to solve the problem you just talked about is, I just packed every personality that is good regardless of chi. There are mimicries in that deck. Okay, he has 3 chi, but the high power Mantis guys. And I have 12 cards in my Fate deck that replace themselves. So the chance of me seeing Death of the Wind or Sun Returns, who are of course the power cards that make the deck any good, and if you don't see them, then then your sensei is playing and didn't do anything, basically. It's pretty okay. But we're not.
When you see those cards,
yeah,
you're so dependent on your Fate deck getting all your work done for you that the fact that you can cherry pick exactly the Fate card you need for this situation often isn't enough.
Yeah, but this is only the case if your personality base sucks.
And Mantis is probably one of the best in the game right now, outside of maybe.
Story.
Yes. I think Mantis has really amazing personality. So, for example, we have a guy that costs 4 gold and is 5/4 opposed, stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, I'll take all that, and yeah, but we're not going to. Let's just stop being too technical here. Going to one deck, I got carried away a little there, but Mantis, of course, is the big issue of the current arc. We can all say that Mantis.
No, I really don't agree that they are. I think the Shike deck is very strong, but I think that if you have played and tested against it even a little bit, you can beat it. If you are aware going into a tournament that, yeah, Mantis Shike is going to be a thing, you can beat it. I think the deck which is actually having the more impacting effect on the environment, even though it hasn't won anything, is Phoenix Honor. Because Phoenix Honor is so fast that it means that every deck that's competitive needs to be able to win on a very, very tight clock.
Yeah.
Even though you're not winning, even though Phoenix Honor isn't winning tournaments, it is setting the pace of the environment for everybody else.
Very true.
Any deck that can't compete with the clock it's setting is out the window. You just can't bring it to a tournament because that 6-turn honor clock is what you have to be able to beat, and you have to be able to beat it consistently. So, and that is, for me, the major limiting factor when it comes to deck construction. Can this deck beat a clock that's that fast? And that's the first concern you have to answer, and then it's about beating everything else.
Yes, that's a really good observation. I think you're quite right with that.
You have to be able to beat both of them right now. I'm working on a thing that I'm playing next weekend, and I know, horrible boo hiss, I'm not playing Loyal, but I'm playing Crab again. I enjoy playing Crab right now. It's fun.
Big units?
Don't let the clan loyalty mafia get to you, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I put in my 10 years with Rats, and then I put in almost 10 years. I put in almost 10 years with Rats and almost 10 years with Phoenix. So I earned my retirement policies there. So I'm good. I'm in the clear. But yeah, I've just been having a lot more fun with this Crab deck right now. I'm not going to post it until after the tournament. I've tested it against a lot of stuff. This is the Crab deck that Balthus said that I should have won Denver with, and that he never wants to have to play against ever again.
Very, very briefly, you don't want to give away the deck list. That's cool. I can respect that, but just for the sake of the conversation, in the broadest possible
it's 11
strokes,
personalities.
What kind of deck is it?
It's 11 personalities, and almost none of them are Crab.
Okay.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I'm playing Spiders and Ronins out of Crab.
Okay, cool.
Big units.
It's just weird.
Giant towers?
Kinda.
Stand fast?
You don't need standing fast.
It is a standing fast meta.
You don't need standing fast with the Abbot. He can't even standing fast. He's. I mean,
they can't target him. All their gold is
Mitt Romney can't stand for anything.
Okay.
So I don't understand how he's still a viable presidential candidate and how he's still being considered by the right in this country. But you know, that's what the Abbot is. He's Mitt Romney. He doesn't stand for anything, but he has all of the money, and that's the problem.
Okay.
Maybe we lost a couple of viewers on that one. I don't know, but that's what I'm working on. And it dismantles any honor build. I've never had an honor player end their turn at over 30 honor against it. It doesn't matter what they're playing. And that's, I mean, when you don't even need New Order, that's kind of a big problem for the honor deck. And it will take Mantis out to the woodshed and, you know, tell it to pick a switch and give it a couple of, you know, 50, 60 lashings. It's not... It does really good against those. It has automatic losses, but those automatic losses are not played in the format right now, so it's a safer bet. I can't beat if you're playing Shibata Sensei. I can't beat you.
Yeah,
but
luckily my brother is playing that.
That's a safe wager, I think, to make, because I don't think Shibata can beat Mantis or Phoenix Honor right now, because Phoenix Honor can actually attack Shibata and just win the game. And those are two really. I mean, when the deck that you automatically loses to the most played best decks in the format, it's not really something you have to worry about. And I think that's a big thing that most people dismiss when they're going to a tournament. You're gonna have to compromise matches.
Yes.
If you're already losing 70% of your games to a match, and you're still playing meta against that match, double down. Go 0% on that match. You see them flip that Stronghold Sensei combination, whatever. You're just like, cool. Let's shake on it. I'm gonna go to my next match.
Yeah.
Because
I agree with that philosophy.
I've doubled down. I took my one loss for the day. As long as I don't have to play you in finals, I'm going to win all my other matches, because by dropping the meta for you, that's still not helping me in having a favorable outcome in this scenario.
Yeah, I have
better against everybody else, and that's I think that's the big thing that L5R players are not really considering. Figure out what your meta is. Figure out what you need to do well against that meta. The top 2 decks you're expecting to play. And if you're playing things that are built to help you in other matches, and you can double down on those and do better against those other 2 matches, do that.
Yes, definitely. I tried to do the same thing on the last World Championship. I built this deck, and I said, while I was building, I was like, okay, this has no chance against Spider. I will lose against Spider. Nothing I can do there. I could pack 3 Purge of Futurism and be done with it, but no, I will not do that, because, you know, Spider is really bad in Ivory, and they will never make it top 16. So I sat down in the Swiss.
I know how this story ends.
I got 7-0 in the Swiss in the World Championship, undefeated. Was like, yay! Now I've earned something. Let's see who the 16th seed is. The only Spider guy who made it through. If I would have just conceded my last game in the Swiss, I would have dodged a major bullet.
Speaking of Spider.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about Spider, but first. Okay. No.
It's a question I sort of have for you guys. So, from my perspective, Spider are really, really, really strong at the moment.
Yes.
I do not understand why there haven't been more Spider wins in 20 festivals.
I have a theory about that.
Inconsistency. They
no.
lose to Dishonor.
Yeah, exactly.
A well-built Spider deck does not lose to Dishonor.
Yes. Thank you, Jack. The main reason for Spider in the Spotman 7 right now is old dogmas being carried over from Ivory to 20 festivals and reiterated again and again and again on the full-lane board. And this holds the Spider personality back. If people build a deck...
He is a myth at this point. You pack 1 copy of Military Alliance and that matchup is fine. It really is.
Yes. You don't. If you really fear that, if you build a deck and it starts with 3 House of Disgrace and then every personality has an honor loss of 2 in it, you might have a problem. But then I tell them, why do you do that? You know, you auto-lose against Dishonor. And then they tell to my faces, but I cannot beat Dishonor if I don't do that. That's not true. Your stronghold is broken against military. You know, it's really strong. And if you want to play, it is possible. You just have to adjust.
Another thing that I've observed is holding Spider players back, and this is sort of a weird one, is there's a personality, Goju Komoru, the guy with the built-in ambush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's cool. He's a cool, awesome personality. And you should not put him in your deck. But everyone who plays him goes, this is awesome. I get to ambush people and bow them with my stronghold, and Okura is released, and I get this clever stuff, and I feel really clever because of all these cool things I'm doing with Goju Komoru. Meanwhile, not realizing that that's a 6-gold personality, or a 6-gold personality with 3 force, no battle action, who's not taking provinces.
Yeah, and who is stuck in an ambush, he cannot get out, gets balled in resolution, and you don't get anything done in the end.
I mean, even when he's really effective, like Sparks is an American player who gets tons and tons of mileage out of his Goju Komorus, but you will never. I don't think you're going to win. Like a deck with Goju Komoru in it, if I see it on a report or anything, I'm like, that deck isn't going to win anything. It's just purely as a question of philosophy. So the reason I found Spider to be so good in 20 festivals is that they have ludicrous tempo, ludicrous tempo. And it's an environment about going fast.
They have insane stripper magics also. They will make
yes.
They have amazing stripper magic.
Yeah, there's of everything.
You don't get to have attachments against Spider, and that's a really bad place to be, especially when they're bigger than you. I mean, look at the amount of static fear you can play, and I don't remember what he is, the 4/3 guy who gets a force bonus every time you take a fear action. That guy's insane in this format. And then
7 gold,
have
expensive.
solo. It doesn't matter. Like he's usually 8 or 9 force by the end of a battle. I mean, he's expensive, sure, but I think at that point you sort of leverage at least a little bit. You play slightly fewer personalities and some more defensive tech. I think that deck, that more mid-game military, takes off insanely well when you have Yushinden Sensei, and then you have...
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll discuss that one later. It's on the list.
I've been playing Koiso Sensei, or not Koiso, Kobe Sensei, just to go to -2 and go second.
Yeah.
But you do that, you have the new Compassion 2/2 that gives you +1 province strength, and you just sit back and you're like, well, you can't take my provinces. I have time to build.
Do, buddy.
Yeah, I think what Spider players need to try to do is to take a playbook from what was good in Ivory and try to design their deck, dynasty-wise maybe, and fate-wise, to be good at unopposed battles, because their stronghold and their new Sensei will take care of opposed battles by themselves. And then they are good against honor and against dishonor.
Exactly the deck I ran in Dublin was that. It was, how quickly can I get the force together to take a province? Yeah.
And then you have a box that is broken opposed.
And then the thing is, right, I still have that deck. I don't play. I'm bored senseless of it. Because it just doesn't lose. But every now and then, like for a gauntlet, we get it out and we go, well, we've got this exciting new deck concept that we're working on, and it's loads of fun to play. It all these cool little micro synergies that make you feel clever. And there's definitely potential in this idea. And we go, right, so get out the Spider deck. And you spend 15 minutes just having the most soul-crushing experience of going, well, I've done all this stuff and all my attachments are dead and my hand is gone and he hasn't played any cards from hand and all his guys still have abilities left to be used. And
yeah, we have to tinker before I go to Paris, definitely. Okay, but we talked about that later on the show. So I think, the two main points that I think is right now in the environment is it's pretty balanced across the board, I think, in comparison to where we were beforehand. It's a huge step in the right direction. The two extreme ends in performance is Mantis and Spider. And I think we covered those two. So I think we should move on to our last topic before we close out the show, which will be preview time. Thunderous Acclaim, guys. Okay? And the way we will do with that is that everyone in this show has chosen 3 cards that he thinks are for some reason, mechanical, artwork, storyline, something else, interesting. And we start our introduction of the new set with every one of us, presenting his 3 cards and tell us why he chose them. And I would like Dave to start with his 3 cards.
Sure.
Dave,
okay.
Go for it.
Okay. So I picked 3 cards, because I think they're interesting. The first one I picked was Daigatsu Kampeki Unleashed. And the reason I picked him is because he is so representative of the story that's coming. The fact that he is so strong. He's got 7 force and 5 chi. He's a conqueror. He's a kensei. He's got a bunch of other keywords. He's very expensive at 15 gold. Like don't get me wrong. That's a really, that's a decision you're going to have to look at in your deck building. Do I want to include this one guy who's worth 15 gold, or do I want to include 3 other guys, who are worth 5 gold each? But it's not really the mechanics, strictly speaking, in the sense of the CCG that makes him interesting to me. It's the fact that what he represents. He gives all of your guys without fear abilities fear 2. What that does is it really does a great job of encapsulating what Ken Pecky, when he finally decides that he is going to move on the Empire, what he's all about. It's the way that the power of Jigoku is flowing as these seals are broken. These mystical seals that represent a boundary between the mortal world and Jigoku and perhaps the other spirit realms. When they break and the power of Jigoku becomes more readily available to the spider, it's the extent to which that power grows. So I think he does a great job of representing that. And he's got some really cool artwork on him too. And there, just by way of a heads up, the story that shows the critical moment where Kanpeki decides to make his move on the Empire, and why, and all the circumstances around that is coming very soon. In fact, it's in editing right now, and I think it's a really good story. So it's Thunderous Acclaim Part 1 is the name of the story. The second card I picked was Accepting the Choice. A really interesting card because it does something that that very strong cards in the past have done. It lets you go and find a card. Now, the cost is you have to pitch a card into your discard, and you have to pay 2 gold to do it. And then it essentially replaces itself with a card of your choice from your Fate deck, which is a really strong effect. Although it doesn't, strictly speaking, replace itself because you do have to pitch a card. But in a game where there are a lot of cards with discipline on them, and where there are other types of recursion, that's not necessarily such a terrible thing. Just let me make sure you don't have to. You have to discard a card, right? Just want to make sure I wasn't talking around myself there, and you didn't have to remove it from the game. I'm thinking of Forgotten Legacy. So it's potentially a very strong card. What interests me is, when I first looked at this card, I thought, every deck's going to run this. But then on reflection, I'm not entirely sure they will. So it'll be interesting to see what impact that card has on decks as we go forward. And then the third card I picked, just because I like it so much, because it's such a narrow card. It's Be Silent. Be Silent essentially says it's a political interrupt. If the action is a favor action, negate personality's movement from its effect. And then if you have courtesy, which means that if you didn't go first, it has discipline too. I'm not saying it's a very good card. In fact, probably the opposite. It's such narrow meta. It stops movement from the favor only, or favor effects.
Good draft card.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is very much a draft card, absolutely. And I think it's a good example of a draft card, and just one that I wanted to highlight, to the folks watching, is that there are cards that can be very good in limited formats like draft that you may look at and go, what the hell, why would I ever run this? So those are my 3 cards for very different. One, because it's really interesting in the story concept. One, because it looks really strong, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it gets used. And one, because it is so narrow and it is so obviously a draft card.
Yeah,
I think Accepting the Choice. I was going to talk about Accepting the Choice too. I decided against it because I didn't want to be negative. But Accepting the Choice for me is a really good example of very risky card design.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It is something that I anticipate will lounge in folders for 6 months, and then someday someone will come up with a turn 3 Enlightenment deck, and it'll have to be banned.
Yes.
Or the alternative is that turn 3 Enlightenment deck never comes up and it just fades into obscurity and never sees play. But I feel like it's a card that is just an unnecessary risk from a design perspective. It is an interesting effect.
It is.
But,
it is.
Interesting in a way that makes me nervous, I think.
Yeah, you should have printed.
That definition of interesting, yes. The interesting that it actually means this is making me really, uncomfortable.
Yeah, the thing.
I'd say it was a brave choice to print that card.
Definitely,
Great
I think it would have been great if you would have printed, because we also thought of Enlightenment here. Print on the card, you may not win an Enlightenment victory. And then I think if it's not directly leading immediately to you winning the game, it's actually, I think, decently costed, because it is costed. It is way more costed than any other tutoring effect. For example, what you already have, you should not forget that, we have Walking the Way. And it's a card that also tutors anything you would like to have, and it's also costed. It has an additional cost of you needing to play a Shugenya, but depending on where you look at, Walking the Way might even be cheaper. Depending on where you look at, it may be more expensive. For example, if you have a Tamoko, the girl who straightens herself open, Walking the Way is 4 gold, and this is definitely cheaper than 2 gold in hand card.
Yep.
But this is, depending on your deck. But there's already in the environment tutoring for everything, and it has not blown into our faces yet. But, behold the things to come.
Walking the Way.
Yes. Okay. Let's go to Jack's cards.
So my cards were a Sensei and 2 followers. So Yujindan Sensei obviously is a pretty, from both a story perspective and a mechanics perspective, is a pretty exciting card. A minor note I will bring up is that when it was first previewed, I got really, really, really excited because I have been itching to find a deck in which I can play Moto Daigoru, the 4/4 cavalry guy. But when I discovered that he's non-human and it doesn't work with him. And then similarly, Daigatsu Zenshi, who would be a natural fit for any deck that would run Yujindan Sensei, even to the point that I might run him anyway, even though, again, he has that non-human keyword. But then Voitaji doesn't have the non-human keyword.
I know.
And I have to wonder, so I joined playtest for the set afterwards for Evil Portents. So Thunderous Acclaim was put to bed before I joined. But I wonder, was the card tested on the assumption that, because a lot of people I know missed that. They said, oh, cool, I can play all those cool undead guys without an honor loss. And I have to wonder, was the card play tested on that assumption? Which I expect, Dave, you can't answer.
I don't know. That's actually, that predates me as well. So I'm not entirely sure.
And also, all that stuff's under NDA anyway, so we're not going to talk about it.
If it's
but I think Yujindan Sensei, in spite of that disappointment, will go on to be really strong. I think, in particular, the followers it gives you access to. So there's the Unliving Legion from TNO is really good.
Really good is an understatement.
Yeah, the Legion of the Ninth Kami from the set that's coming is, again, really good and necessary for the deck as well, because the Sensei's trait that destroys attachments, because it doesn't let you target all the attachments, you still need to run Show of Power. But Legion of the Ninth Kami helps with consistency for that reason. And the other amazing, amazing undead follower, and there's a bunch of them still, but the Desiccated from Ivory Edition base.
Yeah, right. Can discard it.
4 gold, 3 force follower that you can attach to the bin. But normally comes with a 3 or 4 point honor loss, but now you've just got this infinitely recurring follower for a very reasonable cost. I think Yujindan Sensei, it'll be a slightly different kind of deck, but I think there'll be something very, very strong out of it, following on from Spider's existing strengths. The other card I went with is another follower, which is the Jungar Regulars. They're a cavalry follower.
The naval ranged 5.
I think what?
The naval ranged 5. You give -2 to a guy, and then you shoot
exactly.
for 3.
Yeah.
That's how Mantis people think when they see such a card.
But they're very, and that's the thing. You can see it that way. It's a very flexible card. It's as soon as that was previewed, every one of us had a military deck, put it in, and we were all putting it to a slightly different use. So, for you, as you say, it was a naval range 5. For the Unicorn player, he was doing one thing with it. The Lion player was doing something else with it.
I think it's
a really, really interesting follower. I think it's really well costed, and it's going to find its way into a lot of decks. But it's a card I'm quite happy to see a lot of play, because it does so many things that it creates a lot of interesting play dynamics. And I think it's a great example of a really, really well-designed follower.
Yeah, I think it will especially see a lot of plays in commander builds, where having one big, fearless, heavy infantry can give you access to tremendously strong battle actions for a 20 festival environment. This is just one application. I don't know if the deck will be any good, but there's this application, and Yeah, if you bow it for
And
its range 3.
it's got a nice high cost for your giant standing fast unit as well. Which is,
Yes, this is true. Then
increasingly
also,
relevant.
you can bow it for, and you don't lose all of its force when you shoot with it. You just lose 2 force.
Oh, it's a really great card.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, your last card?
Was the Legion of the Ninth Kami, which I sort of discussed
Okay, good.
in tandem with the Jinjin Sensei. But it was just a very strong. It's like super efficient. The 3 gold, 3 force is sort of the exact sweet spot you want for in terms of taking provinces quickly.
Yes.
And then it has 2 very useful. It has the interrupt, and it does something else, doesn't it? Anyway, it's really good. It's a great follower.
Yeah, no. What people should not
it will
forget.
go in many decks.
What people should not forget is that right now in the environment we have a card that is called medium infantry. And if you take this as a reference point and look at the undead followers, especially at the unloving living Legion, and you look at that and then you say, okay, I mean, back in Ivory, I played Voodooist Cultist just because he was a 3 force, 3 gold guy. That was also a follower, that I could play more than 3 medium infantry because his follower was so good. And now you have Unliving Legion, which is way, 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 way better if you can ignore the honor loss. And any spider player who plays Yachin Sensei and tells me that he has no room for honor or dishonor meta in his deck, straight out lies. I don't take this anymore. And the first show we had, we sadly lost the VOD. On the first show we had, my card for 20 Fest, we did the same thing with 20 Festival. One of my cards was Voitagi. And I pointed out that for some reason he was the only undead guy without the non-human keyword. And I was like, back in the day, I was just out of curiosity. How does that come? And again, Voitagi is the strongest personality when you look at power divided by gold cost. Voitagi is unbeaten of any personality in the game. He's absurdly strong. I think the only personality I would rate even higher would be Mimicry if you ignore honor losses. But he's not the gold efficient, but he's more slot efficient. But immense asset of new resources you get from the stronghold. And now we can also cut the first card from my 3 cards because that was Jashinsen Sensei.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no, it's okay. This just reiterates.
Spider, you can have it back.
It just reiterates what an impactful card that is, and how I imagine Spider will be a deck to beat in the Thunderous Acclaim environment.
And finally, as like a last note on Jinjin Sensei, as a corrupt crane, I am super happy to see Jinjin come back. Yeah, go Jinjin.
I love his flavor text because people really forgot about it. Okay, so moving along, it's late. James, your 3 cards.
I think the first one that I had up there was what was it? The one I don't even remember what it's called. A Breed Apart. That was it. A Breed Apart.
Great card. Great card.
Was it the Chogenya bow straighten thing?
Kiho, straighten a guy.
Okay, I know.
Anything that bows a guy and then straightens a guy is absurd. Anything that does more than that is just out of control. And I may or may not at this point already have a deck that has this card in it. Tyro, the Phoenix guy who turns somebody into Shadowlands for a turn, and the spell that turns somebody into Shadowlands for a turn, just as the basis of a really ridiculous engine of, man, you really shouldn't have had skin between 2 certain pieces of your anatomy. How dare you have a taint? How dare you possess a taint? And it's been really, really good because Tyro opens you up to all of that removal, that perfect removal that's in the format right now. And who needs to play things like Startling Ki when you can just turn 1 card sideways and say, I use this ability on another card, and the thing dies.
Yeah.
It's really coming together really well, and I really like this card because of the story implications of it are great. You have one of the spiders standing up to somebody, and she's probably going to die because of it, but, whatever. And then you have the spider aggressively screwing with other people. Along with, this is just a fantastic card. Everything about it's great. I think the next card that I picked was not today or whatever it is, the ranged one attack that draws you a card.
Ah, okay.
There's so much combo ability in that. If
So good.
Like
and it's even karmic, I think.
Yeah.
Sticks and Stones was one of my favorite cards in Emperor Edition.
Sure.
It wasn't quite as good, purely as a matter of context. Like back in Emperor Edition, it gave you an extra action as well. No, not good enough. Much too slow.
Yeah, but here, I mean, if you're not going to draw the card off of it as a battle action, you can karmic it before you go into a fight. The other thing is, and the reason that I really like this, that karmic's first form, if you've got Steal the Candle's Flame in multiple...
Danger.
Like, hey, take a ranged 5, I'll draw a card, and I'm going to put this Path of Wisdom in my discard pile to put it back into my hand to continue to draw.
We will talk about Path of Wisdom
and
a
then
little more, I think.
The other card that Dave put in there with the choosing the path or whatever it is, the 2 gold, discard a card, pull a card from your deck. It's just...
Oh, accepting the choice. Yeah.
Accepting the choice. It just...
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like that's another
free
thing
recursion.
that's there. The new Taint Everything and Burn It Down deck is there. And then my last card kind of is the whole saying again from Game of Thrones. I don't want to see the wheel continue to spin. I want to break it. You've got the water spell that just says, "Oh, that's a cute action thing that you did." No. And comboed in with the Kage Sensei deck that's already sort of in place, you're just, no. And I'll scoot back in with this water terrain and straighten and give myself force. What's your action? Because I got another copy of that spell on my unit. If it's something that matters, it's going to matter, but it's probably not at this point. And you look at all of the high focus values in that deck, it opens you up to, what's it called? Weakness Exposed. You've got a 5-chi guy who just comes out of provinces, gets spells, and casts them. You've got a 3/4 commander who, when she gets spells, she casts them. There's a lot of really fun decks that are just going to start to exist.
Yeah.
With this new set, and I'm hoping that the development on these just continues because they look like they're fun things to play.
Yeah, I think I get a little flashback when I see that commander you just talked about, because together with the holding that lets you attach spells unopposed, and you gain an additional action to cast it. You gain another additional action. You can put a harpoon spell on there and get an additional action after an harpoon. And this is where, come over here. And this is where I get reminded of hunting the Ebon Daughter days in, I think, Celestial, where...
Crab Scouts.
Yeah, I hated that.
I drag in both your courtiers, I shameful and cowardly both of them, you lose 6 honor, I take your profits anyway, ha ha ha, are we having fun?
Yeah, I think those harpoon with additional actions, I think, is a negative play experience by the book. It just is. But you have to combo 3 cards for that, so it's okay. And kill is not so readily available as it was back in the days.
I don't know, with all that high chi and weakness exposed.
Not so readily available. Back in the days, if it wasn't a kill action, it was not in the deck.
True.
That was...
Back in the days, if it wasn't a double kill action, it wasn't good enough.
That's right.
Back to late Diamond Edition. Is it removing 2 guys from my opponent's army? No. Cut. Not good enough.
Into the darkness. Yes.
So I think the last cards that we want to discuss is my 3 choices. The first one is all stolen by Jack, but reiterates the point of how impactful that card is. The second card was the open fear action that was introduced for followers. Hell yeah for 2 reasons. I think, James, there's a card that you can turn sideways to make other cards disappear.
Yeah. Turning stuff sideways to make stuff go away is always good.
Exactly. And you can do that, but besides the point, we were talking about negative play experienced. Control Military is a negative play experience. Control Military is a deck that plays Force to break fast and Control. So now you have a card that gives you control if you have another card that has a lot of force. It's already everything set up for, getting a guy turn 2, loading a big follow on it, borrowing another guy, maybe even kill him, and then Hachiman straightens the follow or something.
I love how Andre starts off by going, And of course, this is a negative play experience, and then proceeds to describe with the utmost glee,
I know,
what I'm
it's
gonna do to people.
amazing.
This is gonna be great, you guys.
Okay, so, and I heard that it's pretty easy when you play Mantis to gain the favor because there are combos with, Ivory Courtroom, and there's Imperial Summons, and then it's so easy to fetch cards from your deck by paying 2 gold and discarding a card. And get even more of the missing piece you had from the puzzle, or maybe even search an Okura's release because limited bows open bow is not strong enough for you. Stuff like that. And the last card, and I'm shocked that no one of you brought it up yet. It's the Turquoise Adjunct. It's the farm on a stick, farm in terms of farming money. It's a card that generates gold in Dynasty.
The busted thing. The busted thing.
Yeah, the busted thing.
That card is dumb.
Okay.
That card is gonna cause all sorts of trouble.
The card would not be so strong. The card would only then be a problem.
If you didn't already have personalities who produce gold.
Yeah, but wait. The card would be no problem at all. Or let's say, imagine there would be an artisan who costs 0 gold. Just imagine that. Just for fun, imagine there would be an artisan that costs 0 gold that you can play when you're a Mantis clan. You can play her for 0 gold together with like 7 gold, for example, because you do a Mantis start, and then her. And then for your second turn, you attach that card. There is an artisan who costs 0 gold if you play Geisha Sensei. And we already talked about that we have a lot of applications for Path of Wisdom. So if you have the fetch card, accepting the choice, and if you have Turquoise Adjunct, everything falls into place so rapidly. And the moment Victory Through Deference cycles out of the set, which is, by the way, Victory Through Deference is, I have quarrels with 2 existing cards. One of them is Your True Nature, 3. Colon Conscripts, Your True Nature, because for some reason there's something with items on there that is completely random, flipped, and therefore no reason. It makes no sense. And the third card is Victory Through Deference, because I start all of my decks when I build
by Victory Through
when I start my deck. I build a deck always with 40 Dynasty cards and 37 Fate cards. This card does too much, and it does too much in a too efficient way. That you remove 3 cards, for example, or even removing an ability by itself is already strong enough. I would probably even play the game if it would play the card if it would just do that. Amazing card. And once this falls out, there needs to be a balanced version of Victory Through Deference to get all this junk under control. So Turquoise Adjunct is a huge way to make some money, and out of the right deck, you can also use Haruna, for example, for Mantis. I always look at things a little Mantis-y, but you don't have to. Early personalities that are worth their buck to buy early, even turn 1, then Turquoise Adjunct them. Oh dear. I don't know where this will end, if this will end great or not.
The other free gold action in the format is kind of a problem. The straighten to get more gold.
No, but it says if your holding has not produced gold yet.
Do
you mean that one?
I like to use Counting House. I like to use things like
but
favor.
It's not accelerating though. Like you can't use it to buy an extra holding on turn 2.
Yeah, it's
always the danger with these kind of cards.
Gold is only broken early. It's always good, but gold early snowballs. So the 3 gold I made extra with the Turquoise Adjunct. Or let's say my first buy is out of an Geisha deck. It's a free Geisha, then a Voice of Experience and a Forgotten Legacy. This has the beauty of only requiring 2 slots in my dynasty to do. Okay? And then I can even produce 5 gold next turn. I burned a lot of hand cards, but with this economic head start, I can play stuff like later on to compensate for it. There's how's that called? You pay 3 gold.
Spend 3 gold and draw a card with your Mantis Strongholds.
Not when you play hookers.
Oh, when you're not playing Sachina Sensei, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but
forget how to draw cards when you've got too many hookers with the logo on. It's just
yeah, I know.
out of your mind.
So but I think these covers the interesting card. One card I also think is really interesting is Hero Sensei, because he will open up decks for Alliance, the event Alliance, and this will just increase your deck building creativity capabilities. For example, I can build a Mantis deck which has 15 clan holdings, just monks from different clans, and then they are all out of clans, so you have the Honored Sensei, Slave
That's
Pits.
jank though. That's fine. That's jank.
Okay, good.
And it means you're running Hero Sensei, which is just Hero Sensei's a bad card.
It's a bad card?
Yes.
think
It's
so?
one of those cards that it will either produce a deck that is completely busted and has to be banned, in which case it's a bad card, or it will just never see play, in which case it's a bad card.
Yeah.
There will be no deck which is good that runs Hero Sensei.
Okay, if this is your definition of good, then I will wholeheartedly agree. There's probably no middle ground. Either there is a broken combo unlocked by it, or there's nothing to gain there.
And if your plan starts with, I'll run 3 copies of Alliance, if you started playing in Samurai, this may be the first environment in which Alliance has ever been legal for you. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been like, but I could run Alliance, and then I could run all these personalities. It never works. It'll always disappoint you.
Oh, don't crush my dreams. I get to play 15 clan holdings. Come on.
Like back when Unexpected Allies was legal, and we were like, but if I stack my deck with the right way at Unexpected Allies, and I get the Maw, and he gets like a Toku, and then everything's going to be awesome, it'll always let you down.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
Okay, this will be the last show. My life has been broken by Jack. Thank you. We close the show now. No. Okay, but actually, predictions. Biggest meta swings that Thunderous Acclaim brings.
Phoenix honors main. Phoenix will probably be a lot better right now than it already is, and that's, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. They get an Earth military deck, they get a Water military deck, and then they get more support for their Honor deck. And I don't think that as many clans, I don't think there are clans that got as much support for the things that they do.
I think as long as the variety stays, that's fine. Like, I think as long as one isn't just clearly better than the other options. Like, if you can turn up to a tournament with any of those 3 decks and feel like, yeah, hey, this is cool, then I think it's fine that Phoenix gets a ton of new toys.
Yeah, you guys said it too. I think Spider is going to be very strong. I think Spider is going to do well after this time.
I think in a big way, and which is so common with the first expansion, it's just going to be the rich getting richer. A lot of the decks that are already good are just going to get better.
I don't think Mantis is going anywhere soon. That guy who shoots provinces for province strength is effective.
They have more gold and more cards than everybody else.
I don't like to rely on abilities. If I play the guy who shoots province strength, he's only relevant early, because later in the game you have enough breaking power. You want opposed battle force. Okay, we agree on that?
The game doesn't have a range 4 attack.
Is never bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never bad, but I can't rely on it, because if I do that and I really rely on it, then my opponent will have victory through deference. And I'll look pretty silly with that. So I'm just not going to play.
Here first, Andre Rinn says abilities on personalities are bad. Don't run personalities with abilities.
No, abilities on personalities that you have to rely on to a degree that when they fall flat, that you just, all your battle plan is completely out of the window immediately. Might be a problem in an environment where every Fate deck only has 37 choices to make.
Actually, Spider Ninja agree that abilities on personalities are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, who needs abilities and personalities? It's rubbish. It's wasted time.
Yeah.
Don't need them.
Yeah, don't do them. They're bad for you.
Okay. My name. I want to mention one clan for the death of all defensive decks. Prize goes to Unicorn, who got themselves 2 new non-unique reserve personalities and a new unique reserve personalities. And we all know what reserve does to defensive decks. Murder. Complete murder. Yes. So
the guy in my play group is currently working on a Harpoon-focused Unicorn deck with Thunderous Acclaim cards. It is a horror show. He picks his fights where he wants to meet you. You're like, yeah, we'll defend here, we'll defend there, I won't defend there. He harpoons in one of your guys, buys 3 guys from his provinces, splits them up to take 2 more provinces. Terrible things. terrible things.
Yeah, get some cavalry escort flashbacks there. Okay, so I have to ask the technic guy. Jakob, do we have any questions on the Twitch chat? I don't have the chat open. Does anyone know? Because I think we closed this last topic. Just look if there's anything.
It might be helpful to ask the audience if they have any questions.
Yeah. Audience, any questions? Or was there anything on our Facebook page? I don't know.
It all seems to be declarative statements on there right now. There's not anything further going. I do have an appointment that I've got to get to. I have to tutor somebody nearby who's doing some college algebra, and they're going to need some help with that. So
yeah, it's only fair. We've been too long. I told you that this will only last 2 hours, but we got lost in story discussion.
Oh no, we're just fine.
Yeah. So I think we just close out the show for the day.
Right.
The VODs will be up on YouTube. The channel will be posted on the probably also on the AG main page.
Sure.
Again, to get the words out of the show. So thank you all for coming here. Does anyone has any closing words? Anything he wants to
You
say?
suck, Sparks!
Yeah, he was there last show. Did he say you suck,
He's just a
Jack?
troublemaker. That's all he is.
My life, your soul for the Phoenix.
That's a
For the
good one.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Just a reminder that the clan path choice votes will open up on Monday, June 15th. So check your Imperial Assembly account and your subscriptions to make sure they're all copacetic over the course of the next week, and be prepared for the voting to start on the 15th for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, and we are all looking forward to Onyx Edition, where an army of blood magic Phoenix will go up against the Mantis Merchant Empire. Things will be great. Things will be great. So, guys, thank you all for watching. To all you guys watching the VOD now on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. You will probably hear from us in the future, too. I thank again all of my guests for joining us.
Thank
We
you.
close out the show. Yeah, we'll probably have some new interesting guests in the next episode. Stay tuned. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.